Chapter 526. Jing Qiu's heart tightened as she stared at the black-robed youth in front of her. This was a secret she had been hiding all this time. She had too many misgivings, so she had never dared to speak of it. But this time she had made her move. Even though she had been very cautious in restraining her aura and body shape, she had still been recognized. Jing Qiu had mentally prepared herself for this. After all, they were husband and wife. Outsiders might not be able to tell, but it was possible for her husband to. Jing Qiu nodded lightly, but she was still very nervous. She was afraid. Because she cared too much about her husband, she was afraid. Reincarnated? Dongbo Shuang asked. Yes. Jing Qiu took a deep breath and looked at her husband. You despise me? Jing Qiu was so flustered that she did not dare to wait for Dongbo Shuaying's reply. She continued, I only awakened my memories when I became a deity. Previously, I was known as the mysterious Star Sword Lady, the eldest daughter of Monarch Imoshue. As such, when you met 7th Meiyu, I was able to tell at a glance that she was a woman. After all, she's my younger sister. Furthermore, my father, Monarch Imoshue, personally guided you. It was because he knew that you were his son-in-law. Jing Qiu carefully observed Dongbo Shuaying's expression. You two already acknowledged each other back then? Dongbo Shuaying asked. We secretly acknowledged each other. Apart from me and my father, no one else knew, Jing Qiu replied. Dongbo Shuaying was puzzled. No wonder. No wonder he felt that something was amiss. Even though he had been rather dazzling during the myriad flower feast, Monarch Imoshue, who could truly rival powerful existences, had actually guided him for 2 consecutive days. Moreover, he had taught him verbally and occasionally demonstrated. At that time, Dongbo Shuaying had been overwhelmed by the favor. Only now did he realize that it was because of his wife, Jing Qiu. At that time, you even teased me in 7th Meiyu. Dongbo Shuaying looked at Jing Qiu. Seeing this, Jing Qiu calmed down and said, I was only joking. I was very happy to see my younger sister, but I just couldn't acknowledge you. Snow Eagle, you don't dislike me, do you? The dignified mysterious Lady of Star Sword is loved by countless universe gods. I can't wait to be overjoyed. How could I despise her? Dongbo Shuaying grinned. Jing Qiu heaved a sigh of relief. She grabbed onto Dongbo Shuaying's hand and said angrily, I'm so nervous, but you're still teasing me. She was indeed nervous. Star Sword Mysterious Daughter was the eldest daughter of Monarch Imoshue. Her background was extraordinary, and because of her father's relationship, she was extremely cold and arrogant. Simply put, the 7 daughters of Monarch Imoshue were all colder. Monarch Imoshue himself was also very proud and aloof. She was strong and her father was strong. Not many people could enter her eyes. Many female transcendents were single. In her previous life, Jing Qiu was much more valiant than those female transcendents. She only had one goal, to transcend and become an almighty being. Hence, even though she had lived for such a long time in her previous life, she had never been in love. To a powerful universe god like her, matters of the heart were no longer attractive. After reincarnating, she hooked up with Dongbo Shuaying and had a pair of children. After she became a deity and awakened the memories of her previous life, she was somewhat afraid. She was afraid that Dongbo Shuaying would become estranged from her after finding out. After all, not everyone would be able to accept knowing that his wife was an old fellow with over 1 billion years of memories. More importantly, Jing Qiu had never experienced matters of the heart in her previous life. Hence, she especially valued her husband, her son, and her daughter. She was afraid. Hence, she tried her best to hide it. Of course, this was only one of the reasons. The other reason was because of her great enemy. Jing Qiu, rumor has it that Star Sword Mysterious Daughter offended one of the deity world's fierce 5, old ancestor Golden Firmament, and was killed by him. Dongbo Shuaying asked. Yes, I did offend old ancestor Golden Firmament. Even father couldn't protect me. In order to escape, I simply chose to reincarnate and avoid this calamity. Jing Qiu nodded lightly. Hence, while I was in the prefecture, father and I secretly acknowledged each other, but I didn't dare to make it public. I even kept my deity avatar because I was afraid that old ancestor Golden Firmament would find out that I had successfully reincarnated. I was afraid that he would kill me again. Dongbo Shuaying couldn't help but ask, how did you offend old ancestor Golden Firmament? Old ancestor Golden Firmament. He was famous among the powerful existences. He was even stronger than his deceased master, Holy Master Crimson Dust, and close to the level of the 3 ancestors. The first of the deity world's fierce 5 was Pang Yi. The second was old ancestor Golden Firmament. He was much stronger than old ancestor Fierce Tyrant. Pang Yi was currently focused on perfecting his cultivation technique and kept a low profile. Usually, the deity world's fierce five would wreak havoc in the outside world. Their leader was Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. He was someone who could easily fight against the three ancestors and escape. Jianghu was a little embarrassed. It's like this. You should know of my previous reputation. Yes. Dongbo Shuang nodded. I wholeheartedly cultivated to become a stage 4 deity, or even a powerful existence. I disdained absorbing faith stones, Jianghu said. Thus, I made preparations long ago to go to some ancient ruins in search of fortuitous encounters. In one of them, I was extremely lucky and didn't encounter much danger. I obtained an inheritance, a remnant piece of the heart sword diagram. Who would have thought that Old Ancestor Golden Firmament had already led 3 of the deity world's fierce 5 and spent a great deal of effort to break through the many dangers. They were just a step away from reaching the core. Who would have thought that I would be the one to pluck the peaches? I was also puzzled as to why I didn't encounter any danger at all. Dongbo Shuang blinked. On one side were 4 powerful existences who had entered the ruins and broken through the many dangers. On the other side were stage 3 world deities. They had probably entered the ruins from another direction and easily reached the core without any danger. It's not entirely your fault. Dongbo Shuang said, after all, you didn't do it intentionally. What's more, it has already happened. It's just a remnant piece of the heart sword diagram. It's just a remnant piece. Jianghu said in a low voice, my father also invited a powerful existence to resolve the matter. It was only later that I found out that Old Ancestor Golden Firmament had spent a long time to obtain 4 remnant pieces of the heart sword diagram. I obtained the 5th and final piece. As long as I can gather all 5 pieces, it will be a complete ancient absolute art. Dongbo Shuang was flabbergasted. Hundreds of billions of years of effort and I'm the only one missing. Many of the dangers in the ruins were solved by them, and I was lucky enough to obtain it. Jianghu said helplessly, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament was about to go crazy. He wanted to capture me and search my soul. Search your soul? Dongbo Ying's expression changed. An absolute art? Even a soul search wouldn't be able to find anything, right? An absolute art's inheritance was extremely difficult to obtain through a soul search. Right. Actually, I wanted to record it down and impart it to him. But my realm is too low and this is just a remnant piece. I could only comprehend a tiny bit of it. There's no way for me to record it down. Jianghu said helplessly, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament probably wanted to capture me and search my soul in order to obtain as many remnant pieces as possible. After all, he's lacking in the last part. The more he obtained, the more he could rely on himself to make up for it. But no matter what, I couldn't allow him to search my soul. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament's ferocious aura reached the heavens, and my master didn't show up either. Thus, I could only choose to reincarnate and fight for a chance of survival, Jianghu said. Many powerful world deities had lived for too long, and could no longer maintain their original hearts. That was why they chose to reincarnate. They wanted to experience a brand new life, allowing their soul to regain its emptiness and vitality. But Jianghu chose to do so in order to escape. This was indeed a good way to escape. After reincarnation, even the blood blade wouldn't be able to find her. I didn't dare to reveal myself. I even temporarily stopped cultivating and focused on comprehending the Tao. Jianghu said, I wanted to wait a little longer. Snow Eagle, your talent and strength are dazzling. I felt that it wouldn't be too late for me to reveal my identity once you were strong enough. Otherwise, the moment my identity was revealed, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament would come. Dongbo Shuang nodded. That's right. The news of him becoming a stage 3 world deity should have already spread, and it would probably reach his master, the Blood Blade, very soon. But Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, his master, the God Emperor, shouldn't appear for him because of this, right? Chapter 527. You're right. Dongbo Shuang nodded. As one of the deity world's fierce 5, Forefather Golden Firmament is extremely ruthless. And you've really offended him. One must know that Forefather Golden Firmament is famous for his ability to flee. He can easily escape from powerful existences on the same level as the 3 ancestors. However, he is slightly weaker in direct combat, which is why he is slightly weaker than the 3 ancestors. If he could obtain the complete heart sword diagram, his strength would increase tremendously and he would truly reach the level of the 3rd ancestor. You've ruined his opportunity, and you have the last fragment of the heart sword diagram in your memory. He won't let you off easily. Jianghu was also vexed. But we're not afraid of him. Dongbo Shuang laughed. Our true bodies are both in the material world. He can't truly kill us. Right. Jing Qiu was also confident. Now that I've reincarnated, I can be considered a new life under the laws of the world. The karma between us has been greatly reduced, and it's hard for him to detect my existence. Furthermore, I've become a stage 4 world deity, so I can isolate myself from karma. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Eldest disciple brother Huiming, monarch Mo Shui, and the others were all capable of such a feat. Stage 4 world deities could easily comprehend other grade 1 deity hearts, and they usually had some understanding of karma. Thus, most stage 4 world deities would casually mention the names of powerful existences. However, Monarch Yong, who fought with me, recognized me. Of course, he only recognized that the silver-haired girl was the mysterious Star Sword Maiden. He doesn't know my current identity. He knows that you helped me and that our relationship is not shallow. Now he should have something to ask of me, Dongbo Shuang said. He shouldn't casually say anything. Amen. Jing Qiu nodded. For the time being, the two of them did not wish to deal with Forefather Golden Firmament. After all, he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Of course, they weren't afraid of him. As a stage 3 world deity, Dongbo Shuang was also a lord of a material world. In reality, he wasn't afraid of anyone. At the level of Temporal Island Lord, even if they wanted to kill him, they wouldn't be able to. As long as his life wasn't in danger, he would naturally be able to deal with it calmly. Jing Qiu, you should hurry up and become a stage 4 world deity. Dongbo Shuang said, after all, your true deity heart will become stronger after you level up. The speed of cultivation and comprehension would also increase. Since you are in closed-door cultivation, your identity will not be exposed. Even if you meet Yu, and Qing Yao, you can just form a clone with the power of the world. Your own strength is more important. That's fine too. Jing Qiu nodded. She hadn't broken through before because she was worried that her husband would suspect her. Haha, both of us are stage 4 world deities. Even if we do make it public, Forefather Golden Firmament won't be able to kill us. They might not chase after you like they did in the past. Dongbo Shuang said. Jing Qiu also smiled. That's right. Snow Eagle, you are the stage 3 world deity with the shortest cultivation time in the entire history of the deity world and Dark Abyss. Right now, the couple indeed had the confidence to face any expert. It's only been 39,000 years. According to the information we received, Dongbo Shuang became a stage 2 world deity in 5,000 years. Based on my calculations, it has only been 39,000 years since then. Monarch Yong returned to his own palace. His cold face was now filled with anxiety. The shortest record for becoming a stage 3 world deity in the history of the deity world and Dark Abyss is even faster than Monarch Green and the Temporal Island Lord. The previous record was held by Manor Lord Feishua. Monarch Yong sat cross-legged in a tightly shut palace hall. The interior of the hall was pitch black. Monarch Yong sat cross-legged in the pitch-black hall, deep in thought. To be able to achieve such great accomplishments in such a short period of time represented astonishing potential. Throughout history, aside from Monarch Extermination, who had courted his own death, the other three had all been extremely stunning. If Monarch Extermination had not been killed, he would have long since reached the level of the three ancestors, given how he was able to suppress powerful existences when he was still a stage 4 world deity. Thus, Monarch Yong was very clear about Dongbo Shuiying's current rise. He could not even find a helper. Thus he was not too willing to offend him. Lower your head. Apologize. Think of a way to get the relic back from him. However, Dongbo Shuiying will definitely be able to guess that it is no ordinary treasure. I'm afraid he won't agree so easily. Monarch Yong felt bitter in his heart. Let's discuss this properly. Even if I have to give up everything and give up my empire, it will still be a small matter. When Dongbo Shuiying and Monarch Yong had fought, it had been in the sky above Eastern Region City. The commotion of the battle had been witnessed by countless deities in Eastern Region City, as well as many world deities living there. It was impossible to hide the news. When Monarch Yong arrived at Eastern Region City, a mysterious stage 4 world deity, the silver-haired woman, acted to block him. Later on, His Highness Dongbo acted to fight Monarch Yong head-on. Their strengths were about the same. His Highness Dongbo and the Calm Sea Prefecture Master conversed for a long time. Many world deities approached and sensed that His Highness Dongbo is indeed a stage 3 world deity. He might be relying on a legendary absolute art to fight a stage 4 world deity. It's a stage 3 world deity without a doubt. The Calm Sea Prefecture's Longshire clan has already spread the news. It's a Stage 3 world deity. The Supervisor Envoy's mansion has also made it public. General Mo and the other world deities have paid a visit to His Highness Dongbua. His Highness Dongbua is indeed a Stage 3 world deity. Piece by piece the news quickly spread. This news continued to spread throughout the Bloodshed God Palace. Even the Temporal Island, the Myriad God Palace and some other remote and mysterious regions in the deity world, as well as the terrifying existences in the distant Dark Abyss, had received this news. In the deepest level of the Dark Abyss, this level of the world was deathly silent. There was only a single life form in the entire world. He was currently sitting cross-legged, and the breath he exhaled from his nostrils filled the entire deathly silent world, causing the temperature of this world to reach a frightening level. His body was so huge that it was unfathomable. Even someone who had cultivated the time immemorial body to grand completion was nothing more than a tiny speck compared to this life form. Due to his huge body, if he were to lie down, he would be able to traverse the entire level of the Dark Abyss. His head would be on one end of the world, while his feet would be on the other end. As a result, he was the only person in this level of the world, and he would usually be able to have a good sleep here. As he sat cross-legged, he opened his eyes. His pair of eyes were even larger than the sun and moon. A brat has appeared in the deity world, and he actually became a Stage 3 world deity in just 39,000 years? This huge existence muttered in a low voice, his voice reverberating throughout the entire level of the world. That Bloodshed brat's luck is truly good. Such a brat was actually snatched away by him. I've heard that he came from the material world, and that idiot from the Temporal Island actually failed to obtain him? Interesting. If he were to be nurtured properly, he might become a good helper. Deity world, within the secret underground palace of the Bloodshed God Palace. In front of the Scarlet Cosmos Furnace, Blood Blade was currently sitting cross-legged. The black bird was no longer on his shoulder. It was unknown where it had run off to. Master. A vigorous voice reverberated throughout the palace. It was the treasure spirit of the entire Bloodshed God Palace. What's the matter? Blood Blade asked. Master, Dongbua Shuiying has become a Stage 3 world deity, the vigorous voice said. Chapter 528. Blood Blade froze for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. If I'm not wrong, he should have cultivated for 39,000 years. Such a cultivation speed is much faster than mine. There are many who have cultivated faster than Master, but in the current deity world, Master is the strongest. Those who have cultivated faster than Master have mostly died, the vigorous voice said. I hope that he can continue on this path. Blood Blade was filled with hope. He stood at the apex of the deity world and the abyss, and those who could stand on equal footing with him could be counted on one hand. Over the long years, he had seen many ups and downs as well as the rise and fall of many talented transcendents with grade 1 true meanings. The current Dongbua Shuiying had cultivated at a speed comparable to that of his eldest disciple, Monarch Green, whom he was most proud of. Even so, Blood Blade was still just looking forward to it. After all, he had long since believed that his beloved disciple, Dongbua Shuiying, would have no problem advancing from Stage 1 to Stage 4. Only after reaching Stage 4 would the truly difficult path of cultivation begin. At that time he would gradually come into contact with the world of His Majesty, God Emperor. In a desolate starry sky far away from Eastern Region City, Dongbua Shuiying and the silver-haired, white-robed woman faced each other from a distance. He smiled at his wife. Jianghu had long since evolved her inner world with the help of a large amount of deity crystals. Her inner world had continuously improved, reaching the Stage 4 world deity realm in a single breath. Dongbua Shuiying had even given his wife many treasures, such as a treasure that could isolate all probing of the laws of nature. He had even provided her with materials so that she could refine her own blood-refined deity warrior. Although the process of refining a blood-refined deity warrior was rather complicated, Jianghu could do it herself with her memories from her previous life. Dongbua Shuiying had only cultivated for a short period of time, so he was completely clueless about medicinal pills, weapon refinement, hexing poisons and many other aspects. Snow Eagle, last time I only used my deity energy to transform into Frost Sword energy. The conversion speed was too slow, and the amount of Frost Sword energy I had was too little. Since he doesn't have a world deity domain, dealing with Monarch Songyong was so difficult. Jianghu laughed from afar. However, things won't be so simple this time. As she spoke, countless ice sword lights began to surge around her. The sword lights were vast and mighty, and they quickly spread out for hundreds of millions of miles, like a surging ocean of ice. In the middle of the vast sea of frost, Jing Qiu was the ruler of everything, emitting a terrifying sharpness. Dongbo Shuiying was not surprised at all. His luminous sun force was also able to cover hundreds of millions of miles in the blink of an eye. Last time, Jing Qiu only had a deity body. Although her world deity secret techniques had reached an extremely high realm, the efficiency of converting deity energy was extremely low. How could it be as efficient as a stage 4 realm deity? Come at me. Let me see how powerful you are. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. The feeling of going all out against his wife was quite interesting. However, you have to defeat my world clone first. Immediately, 9 starry blue-robed Dongbo Shuiying appeared in the void. Jing Qiu had only been a stage 4 world deity for a short period of time, so her attainments in the world deity heart were not as deep as Dongbo Shuiying's. Thus, she could not forcefully suppress Dongbo Shuiying and prevent him from condensing his world body. Snow Eagle, you have to be careful. Jing Qiu's silver hair fluttered as she waved her hand. Hua! Immediately, countless ice sword lights surged forth. Dongbo Shuiying looked into the distance, only to see countless ice sword lights surging forth like a vast ocean. Like a surging wave from the starry sky, they arrived in front of the 9 world clones in an instant. The 9 starry blue-robed Dongbo Shuiying also began to display his spear techniques. At the same time, his luminous sun force surged forth. Bang! 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 The unyielding luminous sun force formed countless chains that charged forward. However, these ice sword lights were extremely sharp. Although their power was greatly reduced by the impact, they still managed to cut through the chains and continue to attack the 9 world bodies. The 9 world bodies displayed their spear techniques to defend themselves, but they were completely suppressed. Soon, the ice sword lights pierced into their bodies. After all, no matter how good their spear techniques were, they could not defend against the all-pervasive sword lights. Although the time immemorial body had already reached the 6th level, it was still unable to withstand the sword lights. They were constantly penetrated, and soon the 9 world bodies were crushed under the countless sword lights. Stop, stop, stop. I admit defeat. Dongbo Shuiying hurriedly said. Only then did the ice sword lights retreat. Jing Qiu said, your real body hasn't even made a move yet. How can you admit defeat? My real body is indeed stronger than the world bodies, but only in terms of the Scarlet Cloud Spear. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. You've already destroyed the 9 world bodies, so how could my real body withstand it? I truly did not expect that the power of your ice sword lights would be so great after accumulating. Your strength is in no way inferior to Monarch Cangyong. In terms of strength, he was also weaker than Monarch Cangyong. Previously, in the battle above East Region City, he and Jing Qiu had joined hands to stop Monarch Cangyong. Jing Qiu smiled. My ice sword lights have also absorbed some of the profound mysteries of the heart sword diagram, so they are even more powerful. However, the heart sword diagram is too profound. I plan to properly comprehend the heart sword diagram after I finish refining the blood-refined deity armament. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. I never expected that I, Dongbo Shuiying, with my illustrious reputation, would not even be able to defeat my own wife. I'll cultivate as long as you cultivate. Jing Qiu curled her lips. Aha, I'm just teasing you. Don't worry, I, your man, will be able to defeat you very soon. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. Come, let's go back. All right. Jing Qiu nodded. The two immediately boarded the Starfield flying ship and traveled through the spacetime tunnel back to East Region City. After returning to the supervisor envoy's residence, Jing Qiu quietly went into seclusion. With her strength, it was only natural that no one would notice her. After all, there were only 2 stage 4 world deities in the entire Calm Sea Prefecture. One was the Calm Sea Prefecture Master, and the other was Jing Qiu. Dongbo Shuiying went to see his daughter and give her some pointers on her cultivation. Qingyao, comprehending the laws of heaven and earth should focus on the essence of things. However, this is too prejudiced. You should temporarily let go of your current comprehension and try again in a different direction. Dongbo Shuiying extended his hand, condensing the power of the world into a sword. Although he had never studied sword techniques, the essence of the laws of heaven and earth was the same. Since Dongbo Shuiying's realm was much higher than his daughter's, he could naturally give her some pointers in a simpler way. Dongbo and Qingyao listened attentively. She had grown up listening to her father's stories, and she worshipped him immensely. As he was giving pointers to his daughter, a sudden surge of power was transmitted over. Dongbo Shuiying immediately sensed that this power belonged to his master. Although he had a treasure that could isolate all laws of heaven and earth, he did not dare to obstruct his master. Dongbo. A voice resounded in his mind. Master, Dongbo Shuang hurriedly replied. To be able to become a stage 3 world deity in such a short period of time, not bad. However, you should know that many grade 1 true meaning transcendents ended up being stuck at stage 4. Even Monarch Extermination, whose talent was not any weaker than yours, ended up destroying himself. Your path of cultivation has only just begun. Do not be arrogant. Cultivation is also the cultivation of the heart. Bloodblade continued, now that your fame has spread, there will definitely be many experts who will come to pay a visit or even befriend you. However, you must remember that not everyone can give you benefits. If you do, it will become karma. Dongbo Shuang was startled. Yes, master. This disciple understands. Emin, that terrifying power immediately retreated. Many experts will come to pay a visit? Dongbo Shuang frowned slightly. Bloodblade was right. Just half a month later, many experts came to pay a visit. Your Highness Dongbo, I heard that your Highness is looking for demon bone ash? Ha, this old man just so happens to have 3 kilograms of demon bone ash which I am willing to gift to your Highness, a golden-haired old man laughed. There was also wine placed on the table in front of Dongbo Shuang. He lifted the wine cup and drank a mouthful before laughing. 9 rigid prefecture master, this gift is too valuable. I do not dare to accept it. Previously, with his master's reminder, Dongbo Shuang was extremely intelligent. He immediately understood that his current cultivation speed was extremely fast, and he had even broken the record of becoming a stage 3 world deity. The various superpowers should understand that Dongbo Shuang would soar into the sky very soon, and he might even become an almighty in the future. The moment he became an almighty, he might even reach the level of the 3 ancestors. Knowing that Dongbo Shuang would have an extremely high status in the future, they naturally had to help him while he was still weak. After all, when Dongbo Shuang reached the level of the 3 ancestors, Dongbo Shuang would no longer be interested in their gifts. If they were to give it now and Dongbo Shuang accepted it, it would become karma. He would have to repay it in the future. Of course, if Dongbo Shuang were to stop at stage 4, their gifts would be wasted. But this was a gamble. If they were to give it now, in the future when Dongbo Shuang became stronger, he would have to repay this karma. Of course, he could also choose not to repay it. If he did so, it would be a huge hindrance to his cultivation. Your Highness, a voice suddenly came from outside. Sky River Prefecture Master is here to pay a visit. What a coincidence. Dongbo Shuang looked at the golden-haired old man in front of him. 9 rigid Prefecture Master, you don't mind, right? Let Sky River Prefecture Master come in and have a seat. It has been a long time since I last met with that Sky River brat. 9 rigid Prefecture Master smiled and nodded. However, he was somewhat unhappy in his heart. Dongbo Shuang did not immediately accept his gift. It seemed that it would not be so easy to form karma with a gift. Star. Chapter 529. The 9 rigid Prefecture Master and the Sky River Prefecture Master were the first 2 stage 4 world deities to pay a visit. After sending them off in the following month, other stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. If it was an ordinary person or a weaker one, they would probably want to receive a sufficiently precious gift. But the stronger one was, the harder it was for them to receive a gift. Most of the visiting stage 4 world deities brought demon bone ash along with them. Normally, it was impossible to buy even if one wanted it. But these overlord existences in the deity world could take out some if they really wanted it. After all, they had lived for a long time and had a deeper foundation. Dongbo Shuang only said, I can't accept it for free, but I'm willing to buy it. 50 million deity crystals per kilogram of demon bone ash is enough for me to buy 5 kilograms. Although cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun required more rare treasures and demon bone ash, he did not have enough deity crystals on him unless he took out the treasures in Crimson Rock Mountain to exchange. Secondly, he was not in a hurry. After all, cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun would require him to become a stage 4 world deity. Once he had accumulated more deity crystals, he could slowly buy it. This, 50 million deity crystals per kilogram? 10 million deity crystals is enough. Those stage 4 world deities still felt that Dongbo Shuang's price was too high. 50 million deity crystals, I'm willing to buy 5 kilograms, Dongbo Shuang said. This price was not considered cheap, nor could it be considered karma. It was just that they had some friendship. In the end, it was the first 5 stage 4 world deities to rush over. Dongbo Shuang each bought 5 kilograms of demon bone ash. They could be considered to have gotten to know each other. Sigh. It's not easy to form karma with Dongbo Shuang. His Highness Dongbua is the personal disciple of His Majesty. He is not stupid. How could he casually accept a gift? In a short month, a total of 35 Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. Some wanted to form karma while others wanted to get to know each other. Many of these Stage 4 world deities came from faraway places. However, none of the Almighties came to visit him. Only the familiar Chihua Laozu came to congratulate him from afar. After all, the Almighties had already transcended. They were not as anxious as the Stage 4 world deities. The sun. It was one of the two most mysterious and powerful stars. Along with the moon star, it was located at the two poles of the immortal world, forever illuminating the immortal world, the material world, and the dark abyss. Furthermore, it was impossible to find it by flying normally. The sun was a gigantic fireball. The flames on its surface were liquid, just like the seawater of a planet. The flames of the sun star were also flowing, incomparably hot and terrifying. However, its power could radiate through the entire material plane, the dark abyss, which showed how terrifying it was. Its laws were much more complicated than the laws of heaven and earth. It was comparable to the laws of the material world and the dark abyss. Many Almighties often came to the solar star. On the surface of the sun star, there was a house with a small courtyard. The courtyard was only about 10 meters in radius. Outside the small courtyard was the boundless flames of the sun. Within the small courtyard there was a white-haired youthful-looking old man laughing loudly. I, Chihua, am truly lucky. Back then I helped that brat Dongbua. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments today? I'm afraid that he might even surpass me in the future. The karma that he owes me isn't light at all. Back then, saving Jingqiu was as easy as lifting a finger to Chihua Laozu. But to the Dongbua Shuang, it was something that he was willing to exchange with his life for. He begged the temporal temple for help, but the temporal temple was disdainful. They believed that Dongbua Shuang didn't have any value at all. After all, to save Jingqiu back then, they either needed a rare treasure that could recreate a soul, or they needed a powerful existence to act. Both of these options were extremely costly. Back then, Dongbua Shuang was at his wit's end. Even if he begged for help, there was no way out. As a powerful existence, Chihua Laozu had acted. This karma, to Dongbua Shuang, it was a karma that he would have to repay with his life. Dongbua brat, your future is limitless. In the future this old man will need your help. Don't reject me. When Chihua Laozu congratulated him, he specially added a sentence. Forefather, you only need to say a word. Dongbua Shuang will risk his life to help forefather. Dongbua Shuang was straightforward. There's no rush. At the very least, I'll ask for your help after you become a powerful existence. Chihua Laozu said. Dongbua Shuang was very grateful. Because Chihua Laozu said this sentence, it meant that this karma could be repaid after he became a powerful existence. Then, when he became a powerful existence from stage 4, the impact of this huge karma would be very small. 3 months after Dongbua Shuang became a stage 3 world deity. At the border between the deity world and the dark abyss, a gigantic black palm pierced through the void and descended, enveloping a region of 500 billion kilometers. That vast region of 500 billion kilometers was completely frozen. The venomous Ying world deity, who was originally fleeing in panic, stared at the gigantic palm in horror. She anxiously shouted, Monarch, monarch, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Her other avatar had just been captured, and this body of hers had attempted to flee in vain. Spare your life? I'm going to give you to Dongbua Shuang as a gift. The terrifying black palm directly grabbed out. Venomous Ying world deity struggled with all her might, but the space around her was completely frozen. Venomous Ying world deity felt despair. The moment she heard that Dongbua Shuang had become a stage 3 world deity, she fell into a daze. She no longer had any wishful thinking and immediately began to flee. Now, Dongbua Shuang had yet to act, but an ancient stage 4 world deity who had lived for who knew how long had taken action. This old man had carefully investigated the area for 3 months before confirming the whereabouts of the two bodies of the venomous Ying world deity. Only then did he act and capture both of them. It was true that the moment he acted, the venomous Ying world deity no longer had any hope. While the venomous Ying world deity was being captured, Monarch Songyong finally came to pay a visit to Dongbua Shuang in Eastern Region City. Monarch Songyong. Many of the soldiers and female attendants in the supervisor envoy residence were watching curiously. 3 months ago, Monarch Songyong had fought with Shuang in the sky above Eastern Region City. Now Monarch Songyong actually dared to come back? Furthermore, the one who had assassinated Commander Bai Li Shang was a subordinate of Monarch Tsang Yong. Both sides had a grudge against each other. Monarch, this way please. A world deity guard personally led the way. Having seen too many stage 4 world deities over the past few days, these guards had long since calmed down. Soon they were led into the hall. Within the hall, only Dongbo Shuang was seated. He pointed to the opposite side and said, Monarch Tsang Yong, this way please. Monarch Tsang Yong took a seat, facing Dongbo Shuang from a distance. Your Highness Dongbo, I am truly ashamed. I hope that you won't take offense to my actions. Dongbo Shuang smiled. Monarch Tsang Yong, let's not speak such empty words. I, Dongbo Shuang, may be confident in my abilities, but I do not believe that I can make a stage 4 world deity personally apologize to me. Furthermore, I only killed one of your subordinates' avatars. You personally came to kill me and now you've come to apologize. Monarch Tsang Yong, you must have a request and it's not a small one. Admirable, Monarch Tsang Yong praised. Speak. What is it? Dongbo Shuang asked. He was also curious as to why Monarch Tsang Yong had come. Was it because of that black sphere? Over the past 3 months he had spent a great deal of time researching the black sphere. His true body had spent 100 times faster time in Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world, but he had still not been able to uncover its secrets. Even so, there was one thing he was certain of. Based on the profoundness of the formation, the black sphere was definitely an incredible treasure. Monarch Tsang Yong looked outside the hall. With a smile, Dongbo Shuang waved his hand and with a rumble, the door closed. I'll just say it directly. I reckon that your highness has already guessed it. Monarch Tsang Yong waved his hand, and an illusory black sphere appeared in front of him. This is precisely the treasure I need. Dongbo Shuang nodded with a smile. Just as I guessed. Could Monarch Tsang Yong tell me what it is exactly? What secret does it have? Chapter 530. The 9 Rigid Prefecture Master and the Sky River Prefecture Master were the first 2 Stage 4 world deities to pay a visit. After sending them off in the following month, other Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. If it was an ordinary person or a weaker one, they would probably want to receive a sufficiently precious gift. But the stronger one was, the harder it was for them to receive a gift. Most of the visiting Stage 4 world deities brought demon bone ash along with them. Normally, it was impossible to buy even if one wanted it. But these overlord existences in the deity world could take out some if they really wanted it. After all, they had lived for a long time and had a deeper foundation. Dongbo Shuang only said, I can't accept it for free but I'm willing to buy it. 50 million deity crystals per kilogram of demon bone ash is enough for me to buy 5 kilograms. Although cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun required more rare treasures and demon bone ash, he did not have enough deity crystals on him unless he took out the treasures in Crimson Rock Mountain to exchange. Secondly, he was not in a hurry. After all, cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun would require him to become a Stage 4 world deity. Once he had accumulated more deity crystals, he could slowly buy it. This, 50 million deity crystals per kilogram? 10 million deity crystals is enough. Those Stage 4 world deities still felt that Dongbo Shuang's price was too high. 50 million deity crystals, I'm willing to buy 5 kilograms, Dongbo Shuang said. This price was not considered cheap, nor could it be considered karma. It was just that they had some friendship. In the end, it was the first 5 Stage 4 world deities to rush over. Dongbo Shuang bought 5 kilograms of demon bone ash each, and they could be considered to have gotten to know each other. Sigh. It's not easy to form karma with Dongbo Shuang. His Highness Dongbo is the personal disciple of His Majesty. He is not stupid. How could he casually accept a gift? In a short month, a total of 35 Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. Some wanted to form karma, while others just wanted to get to know each other. Many of these Stage 4 world deities came from faraway places. However, none of the Almighties came to visit him. Only the familiar Chihua Laozu came to congratulate him from afar. After all, the Almighties had already transcended. They were not as anxious as the Stage 4 world deities. The sun. It was one of the 2 most mysterious and powerful stars. Along with the moon star, it was located at the 2 poles of the immortal world, forever illuminating the immortal world, the material world, and the dark abyss. Furthermore, it was impossible to find it by flying normally. Boom, the sun was a gigantic fireball. The flames on its surface were liquid, just like the seawater of a planet. The flames of the sun star were also flowing, incomparably hot and terrifying. However, its power could radiate through the entire material plane, the dark abyss, which showed how terrifying it was. Its laws were much more complicated than the laws of heaven and earth. It was comparable to the laws of the material world and the dark abyss. Many almighties often came to the sun star. Ha ha ha. On the surface of the sun star, there was a house with a small courtyard. The courtyard was only about 10 meters in radius. Outside the small courtyard was the boundless flames of the sun. Within the small courtyard, there was a white-haired elder with a youthful face laughing loudly. I, Chihua, am truly lucky. Back then I helped that brat Dongbua. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments today? I'm afraid that he might even surpass me in the future. The karma he owes me isn't light at all. Back then to Chihua Laozu saving Jingqiu was as easy as lifting a finger. But to the Dongbua Shuang, it was something he was willing to exchange with his life for. He begged the temporal temple, but the temporal temple was disdainful. They believed that Dongbua Shuang didn't have any value at all. After all, to save Jingqiu back then, they either needed a rare treasure that could recreate a soul, or they needed a powerful existence to act. Both of these options were extremely costly. Dongbua Shuang was at his wit's end. Even if he begged for help, there was no way out. Despite being a powerful existence, Chihua Laozu still acted. This karma, to Dongbua Shuang, it was a karma he would have to repay with his life. Dongbua brat, your future is limitless. In the future this old man will need your help. Don't reject me. When Chihua Laozu congratulated him, he specially added a sentence. Forefather, you only need to say a word. Dongbua Shuang will risk his life to help forefather. Dongbua Shuang was straightforward. There's no rush. At the very least, I'll ask for your help after you become a powerful existence. Chihua Laozu said. Dongbua Shuang was very grateful. Because Chihua Laozu said this sentence, it meant that this karma could be repaid after he became a powerful existence. Then, when he became a powerful existence from stage 4, the impact of this huge karma would be very small. 3 months after Dongbua Shuang became a stage 3 world deity. At the border between the deity world and the dark abyss, a gigantic black palm pierced through the void and descended, enveloping a region of 500 billion kilometers. That vast region of 500 billion kilometers was completely frozen. The venomous Ying world deity, who was originally fleeing in panic, stared at the gigantic palm in horror. She anxiously shouted, Monarch, monarch, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Her other avatar had just been captured, and this body of hers had attempted to flee in vain. Spare your life. Aha, I'm going to give you to Dongbua Shuang as a gift. The terrifying black palm directly grabbed out. Venomous Ying world deity struggled with all her might, but the space around her was completely frozen. Venomous Ying world deity felt despair. The moment she heard that Dongbua Shuang had become a stage 3 world deity, she fell into a daze. She no longer had any wishful thinking and immediately began to flee. Now Dongbua Shuang had yet to act, but an ancient stage 4 world deity who had lived for who knew how long had taken action. This old man had carefully investigated the area for 3 months before confirming the whereabouts of the 2 bodies of the venomous Ying world deity. Only then did he act and capture both of them. It was true that the moment he acted, the venomous Ying world deity no longer had any hope. While the venomous Ying world deity was being captured, Monarch Tsangyong finally came to pay a visit to Dongbua Shuang in Eastern Region City. Monarch Tsangyong. Many of the soldiers and female attendants within the supervisor envoy residence were watching curiously. 3 months ago, Monarch Tsangyong had fought with Shuang in the sky above the Eastern Region City. Now Monarch Tsangyong still dared to show up? Furthermore, the one who had assassinated Commander Bai Lishang was a subordinate of Monarch Tsangyong. Both sides had a grudge against each other. Monarch, this way please. A world deity guard personally led the way. Having seen too many stage 4 world deities over the past few days, these guards had long since calmed down. Soon they were led into the hall. Within the hall, only Dongbua Shuang was seated. He pointed to the opposite side and said, Monarch Tsangyong, this way please. Monarch Tsangyong took a seat, facing Dongbua Shuang from a distance. Your Highness Dongbua, I am truly ashamed. I hope that you won't take offense to my actions. Dongbua Shuang smiled. Monarch Tsangyong, let's not speak such empty words. I, Dongbua Shuang, may be confident in my abilities, but I do not believe that I can make a stage 4 world deity personally apologize to me. Furthermore, I only killed one of your subordinates' avatars. You personally came to kill me and now you've come to apologize. Monarch Tsangyong, you must have a request and it's not a small one. Admirable, Monarch Songyong praised. Speak. What is it? Dongbo Shuang asked. He was also curious as to why Monarch Songyong had come. Was it because of that black sphere? Over the past 3 months he had spent a great deal of time researching the black sphere. His true body had spent 100 times faster time in Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world, but he had still not been able to uncover its secrets. Even so, there was one thing he was certain of. Based on the profoundness of the formation, the black sphere was definitely an incredible treasure. Monarch Songyong looked outside the hall. With a smile, Dongbo Shuang waved his hand and with a rumble, the door closed. I'll just say it directly. I reckon that your highness has already guessed it. Monarch Songyong waved his hand, and an illusory black sphere appeared in front of him. This is precisely the treasure I need. Dongbo Shuang nodded with a smile. Just as I guessed. Could Monarch Songyong tell me what it is exactly? What secret does it have? Chapter 531. Monarch Songyong frowned as he looked at Dongbo Shuang in front of him. Dongbo Shuang simply smiled back at him, causing Monarch Songyong to feel somewhat anxious and helpless. This Dongbo Shuang is truly direct. He knows that I can't do anything to him, so he has nothing to fear. Despite his helplessness, Monarch Songyong understood the situation. With a thought, his world deity domain immediately spread out. Even the treasures he carried with him that isolated all probing of laws were activated, ensuring that the hall was absolutely safe from anyone's prying eyes. Dongbo Shuang silently watched on. Your Highness, could you first let me see if you have such a treasure? Monarch Songyong asked. Sure. Dongbo Shuang extended his hand, and a black sphere appeared on his palm. Its surface was covered with countless uneven patterns. Monarch Songyong's eyes lit up the moment he laid eyes on it, and he became incomparably excited. With a single glance, he could tell that this was the treasure he had been yearning for even in his dreams. With this treasure he would be able to greatly increase his strength. At present he was just a young stage 4 world deity, and even those old fellows who had lived for a long time were much stronger than him. For example, Jianghu, who had obtained the incomplete heart sword diagram and fused it with her secret technique, was now comparable to Monarch Songyong after stepping into the stage 4 world deity realm. This level of strength could only be considered average among stage 4 world deities. Compared to new stage 4 world deities, he was slightly stronger. However, compared to eldest disciple brother Huiming or the Kamsi prefecture master, he was still a notch weaker, let alone Monarch Mo Shui, who had fought undefeated against powerful existences. With this, my strength will greatly increase and I'll be able to obtain even more precious treasures. My chances of transcending will also increase, Monarch Songyong thought. The stronger one was, the easier it would be for one to obtain precious treasures. How is it? Dongbo Shuang flipped his hand and put it away. Your Highness shouldn't be able to discover its secrets, right? Monarch Songyong laughed. I can say that in the entire deity world aside from me, there is probably no one who can unravel its secrets. In the hands of others, it's just a plaything, completely useless. Only in my hands will it be of some use. Dongbo Shuang responded. He had studied the black sphere for a long time, but he had not discovered any secrets. However, anyone with a bit of eyesight could tell that this was no ordinary item. Haha, I have already prepared 5 kilograms of demon bone ash. Monarch Songyong was extremely cordial. There are also 2 Zouwu beasts, both of which have the combat power of stage 3 world deities. I am willing to gift them to your Highness as long as your Highness gives me the black sphere. Dongbo Shuang clicked his tongue and sighed. 5 pounds of demon bone ash? 2 Swanee beasts? Although I have never heard of a Zouwu beast, it is extremely rare for it to have the battle power of a stage 3 world deity. What a grand gesture. Monarch Songyong hastily replied, Your Highness, the Zouwu beast is a type of insect beast that I painstakingly raised. It is absolutely loyal. I heard that your Highness has a pair of children. These 2 Zouwu beasts can be taken care of by your Highness's children. They are definitely the best guards. That's a pretty big deal. What a pity. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. Previously, when many stage 4 world deities came to visit me, many of them came to gift me demon bone ash. I also bought some of them, so I am not lacking in demon bone ash. As for the insect beasts, I don't lack these 2 insect beasts. Monarch Songyong's expression changed slightly. This Dongbo Shuang was clearly not satisfied. His appetite was quite big. But what could he do? Your Highness, this black sphere is useless to you, Monarch Songyong said. As long as your Highness gives it to me, You can name whatever treasures you need. As long as I, Tsang Yong, am able to produce it, I am willing to give it to your highness. Furthermore, I can swear an oath that I will fight for your highness 3 times in the future. As long as I do not lose my life, I will not retreat even if I have to lose a clone. Dongbu Shuang looked at monarch Tsang Yong. Smiling, he picked up the wine flask on the table and poured himself some wine. Don't be in such a hurry. Let's first drink a cup and slowly talk. Monarch Tsang Yong could only suppress his temper and pour wine as well, accompanying Dongbu Shuang in drinking. He had already said everything he could say. As long as it was within his means, he was willing to pay. Now the decision was entirely up to Dongbu Shuang. Monarch Tsang Yong, you still haven't told me what this is. Dongbu Shuang lifted the wine flask and took a sip. Monarch Tsang Yong hesitated for a moment, then said, this black sphere is actually an extremely valuable tool used to breed insects. Tool? Dongbu Shuang frowned. That's not all. Is a mere tool worth you putting your life on the line? Although the tool itself is valuable, what's even more valuable is what's inside, Monarch Tsang Yong said in a low voice. Inside the tool is an insect egg known as a flowing light insect. Snow Eagle's pupils shrank and his expression changed greatly. Flowing light insect? It was a very ordinary name, but it represented a legend, a very frightening legend. This was one of the most frightening insects out of all the countless insects. There was once a stage 3 world deity who was able to breed a fully matured flowing light insect that could rival powerful existences. This was also one of the most enviable aspects of cultivating insects. It allowed one to cultivate an insect that far surpassed one's own strength. There's a powerful existence hidden within this black sphere? Dongbu Shuang muttered inwardly. Furthermore, it was an absolutely loyal powerful existence. The flowing light insect was extremely powerful, but by attaching one's consciousness to it, it could move independently. It could also be protected by the flowing light insect, allowing a world deity to hide within its body. Furthermore, the flowing light insect was famous for its speed. It was a terrifying insect that excelled in speed and could protect its master. In a head-on battle, it could rival powerful existences. It's just an insect egg, Monarch Tsang Yong said. Monarch Tsang Yong hurriedly said, without special breeding methods and painstaking efforts to raise it, it would be impossible for it to immediately rival a powerful existence. Furthermore, apart from me, I'm afraid that no one else can open this tool. I can tell you that the complex array diagram on this black sphere is equivalent to a lock. If one doesn't know the method to open it, they won't be able to open it. I'm afraid that not even His Majesty, the God Emperor, can do it. Can't do it? Dongbu Shuang chuckled. That's not necessarily true. Monarch Tsang Yong was startled. Your Highness, please state a condition. None of you can open it, and even if you do, you don't know how to cultivate it. He did not dare to gamble. After all, the Bloodshed God Emperor was the strongest expert in the deity world. Even if it was an absolute art, he would still throw it out. Such an existence might really know some unique cultivation techniques for the insect beast. Perhaps he might be able to open it, or perhaps he might even have a way to nurture it. In truth, Dongbu Shuang did not want to bother his master. Furthermore, cultivating insects required time and energy. You have a method to cultivate insects, right? Do you also have a method to open it? Dongbu Shuang asked. I obtained it from the ruins. Monarch Tsang Yong nodded. Give me the method, Dongbu Shuang said. Without the slightest hesitation, Monarch Tsang Yong flipped his hand, causing a thick black book to appear. Your Highness, you only need to use your consciousness to obtain the inheritance. This is an extremely ancient and precious method to cultivate insects. Its value is probably close to that of an absolute art. After all, there was a huge problem in cultivating insects. One needed to find the eggs to cultivate them. I'm saying that you give me this book, Dongbu Shuang said. Add 5 kilograms of demon bone ash and 2 Bayan beasts. This black sphere belongs to you. I'm giving you the inheritance? Monarch Tsang Yong was stunned. Inheritance could be passed down from generation to generation. It was just like how Dongbu Shuang had learned the luminous sun technique. Although he had learned it himself, he had been unable to pass it down to others. This was because his cultivation level was too low. He could only teach it to others if he mastered it. That's right, Dongbu Shuang said with a nod. What do you want the inheritance for? Can't you just learn it once? Monarch Tsang Yong was somewhat dissatisfied. The inheritance represented an ancient method to cultivate insects. Even if he were to make a deal with another power and let another expert learn it once, the other party would have to pay a huge price. Dongbu Shuang smiled. Haven't you already learned it? Once you obtain this black sphere, your strength will definitely increase greatly in the future. In the end, this inheritance is still an external object, isn't it? Furthermore, I don't have the flowing light insect, so it's useless for me to learn it. After all, I don't have the time to waste on it. What right do you have to exchange it for this black sphere? That's why you should give me the inheritance, as well as your previous conditions. The black sphere is yours, Dongbu Shuang said. Only then can this deal be considered fair. Monarch Songyong hesitated. He couldn't bear to part with it. He really couldn't bear to part with it. This inheritance was an extremely important treasure to him, and he hadn't expected that Dongbu Shuang would directly ask for it. Even if I keep it, I can only use it to make some deals. After all, I've already learned it, so it won't be of much use to me, Monarch Songyong thought to himself. As for not being able to teach it to a disciple, if I'm powerful enough, why would I care about a disciple? Clearly, Dongbu Shuang didn't care about my previous conditions. Forget it. After the deal, I'll lose some external objects, but my strength will increase greatly. As far as I'm concerned, it's still worth it. Monarch Songyong made his decision after some thought. Looking at Dongbu Shuang, he said, "Fine, I agree. Then let's make an oath," Dongbu Shuang said. "Let my master bear witness." Chapter 532. Fine. Monarch Songyong did not hesitate. The stately blood blade would not lower himself to be greedy for such an item. Since both sides had come to an agreement, they naturally began to make an oath. The oath naturally stipulated that Dongbu Shuang could not be his enemy. After all, if Monarch Songyong's strength increased even faster, he could rely on the flowing light bug to threaten him. That would be troublesome. Of course, Dongbu Shuang believed that once Monarch Songyong nurtured the flowing light bug to maturity, he would have the strength to deal with him. This kid's luck is pretty good. This should be the 5th insect scripture. The blood blade in front of the cosmic furnace sensed the oath and immediately understood what was going on. He could not help but smile. Although nurturing insects is a side path, the 5th insect scripture has indeed reached an extremely profound level in terms of formation diagrams. It can be used as a reference. Monarch Songyong's guess was correct. God Emperor did not care about this insect scripture. As the strongest expert in the deity world, God Emperor's goal had already far exceeded the imagination of Songyong and the others. That was on a completely different level. After making an oath, he did not dare to violate it. The power of an oath was very strong. Even with the protection of the material world, Stage 3 world deities did not fear Bloodblade if they did not make an oath. However, if they made an oath, God Emperor's attacks would be much stronger, allowing him to kill Stage 3 world deities through the material world. If they were not in the material world, like the deity world or the dark abyss, the power of an oath was even stronger. Even Stage 4 world deities and powerful existences would have to be careful and not make an oath lightly. Once an oath was made, it was impossible to violate it. Ha ha ha. Your Highness Dongbu, you are truly ruthless. Monarch Songyong was in a good mood after obtaining the black sphere. He immediately laughed. Your conditions really make my heart ache. My heart aches. Dongbu Shuang also said, compared to Monarch Songyong, what I have is nothing. Obtaining this inheritance will not increase my strength at all. I just want my children and descendants to learn it so that even those with weak cultivation talent will have a way to protect themselves. This was pure nonsense. Dongbu Shuang did not want his children to walk on such an unorthodox path. His Highness Dongbu really treats his children well. Monarch Songyong smiled. Since the deal had been made, he had no regrets. He had already made preparations beforehand. Even if he had to give up all of his treasures and even his empire, he would still obtain the black sphere. Because everything else was external, the flowing light worm inside the black sphere could allow him to fight against almighties. I haven't seen the flowing light worm yet. Let me have a look, Dongbu Shuang said. All right. Monarch Songyong placed the black sphere on his table and gently stroked it with his hand. Immediately, the uneven patterns on the black sphere began to emit light. This light illuminated the surrounding air, revealing a three-dimensional formation diagram. At this moment, this incomparably profound formation diagram was gradually changing. Many different parts of the three-dimensional formation diagram were changing. The light from the three-dimensional formation diagram retracted, and the black sphere began to transform internally. Many of the uneven patterns on its surface began to split apart, revealing a sparkling egg of light within. Lying within the egg of light was a strange worm. The worm emitted a water-like radiance that constantly flowed, occasionally taking the shape of a worm. Just by looking at it, Dongbo Shuiying felt his heart palpitate. It was as if he could already see the might of this worm. He could not help but say, "The flowing light worm gives me the feeling that after it matures, it will not only be able to fight against almighties. It will only be at the level of almighties," Monarch Tsangyong replied. Monarch Tsangyong continued, "Unless the flowing light insect underwent another transformation, but that would be too difficult. Your Highness Dongbo, you will naturally understand once you learn the inheritance." Dongbo Shuiying nodded. "Then if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. If His Highness Dongbo has any orders for me, feel free to let me know. I can do anything for His Highness 3 times, Monarch Tsangyong said with a smile. "Very well." Dongbo Shuiying stood up to send Monarch Tsangyong off. He knew that Monarch Tsangyong could not wait any longer and wanted to quickly return to cultivate his insects. In the underground hall of the supervisor envoy's residence, Jing Qiu was currently in closed-door cultivation for a long period of time. Since she had become a stage 4 world deity, she could no longer wantonly show off in public. Normally, when she saw her son and daughter, she would only condense the energy of the world into their bodies. "Dongbo, you can ask for more. No matter how much Monarch Tsangyong's heart aches, he will still have to take it out," Jing Qiu teased. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. "That's enough. No matter what, Monarch Tsangyong will never give me that flowing light worm. Without the method to cultivate it, without the method to activate the formation diagram, it is impossible for me to obtain it. Since that's the case, I'll just have to take a few more treasures. What I value the most is this inheritance." An ancient insect cultivation technique can cultivate insects that can even fight against powerful existences. Just the formation diagram reflected by that black sphere is already so profound. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. The existence who created this cultivation technique must have reached an extremely high realm. If we can use this cultivation technique as a reference, it will be of great help to our cultivation. Different paths had their own similarities. Then I'll give it a try. Jing Qiu was also very curious. After all, this was a complete cultivation technique. "You go first. Do we, husband and wife, care about who goes first and who goes last?" Dongbo Shuiying laughed. Jing Qiu immediately sent her consciousness into the inheritance, and for a moment she became completely silent. Only faint fluctuations could be felt, indicating that she was currently receiving a large amount of information. Only after a breath's time did Jing Qiu recover. "Dongbo, you've really profited this time," Jing Qiu exclaimed. "This cultivation technique is truly incomparably profound. Even if it's a side path, it's still quite amazing." Dongbo Shuiying also sent his consciousness into the inheritance. Bang! A large amount of information surged into his mind. Countless array diagrams entered his mind as well as all sorts of words. Only after a long time did he manage to learn everything. For a moment, a unique black book appeared in Dongbo Shuiying's mind. The black book could be flipped open, and within it, there were countless array diagrams and simple words to guide one. This black book floated in front of the true deity heart in his sea of consciousness. The true deity heart's small hands were still flipping through the book. The further one flipped through the black book, the more complex and profound it became. There were even some array diagrams that surpassed the array diagrams reflected by the black sphere. Black bug scripture? After learning it, Dongbo Shuiying also understood the name of this cultivation technique. It was a technique specifically used to cultivate insects, and the most complex part of it was the array diagrams. If one's cultivation realm was extremely high, they would be able to use ordinary insects to nurture powerful insects. Naturally, it would be much easier to obtain terrifying insects like the flowing light insect. That was because they would naturally grow stronger. If one were to intentionally nurture them, they would naturally become even more extraordinary. Impressive. Dongbo Shuiying praised. It's truly impressive. It feels like the laws of heaven and earth can be casually kneaded and formed into countless array diagrams. Jing Qiu also sighed in admiration. The two of them did not know how to cultivate insects, but this array diagram allowed them to have a deeper understanding of the laws of heaven and earth. This was also the main reason why Dongbo Shuiying wanted this cultivation technique. Any top-notch cultivation technique was extremely profound and could be used as a reference. After obtaining the black bug scripture, Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu spent a lot of time comprehending these array diagrams. In fact, Dongbo Shuiying even discovered many imperfections in his spear art, destruction. That was because there were some array diagrams that represented destruction. This caused Dongbo Shuang to be greatly moved. For example, his own secret skill, World Prison, had also started to fuse some of the insights he gained from the array diagrams, allowing him to create an even more powerful secret skill. In the past, Dongbo Shuang would often study the usage of the laws of profound mysteries in the Luminous Sun. But the Luminous Sun was extremely young and extremely tough. It was the same style. On the other hand, the Black Bug scripture could be said to be all-encompassing. Darkness, destruction, life, gentleness, treachery, tyranny, all sorts of array diagrams were an eye-opener for Dongbo Shuang. Only half a month had passed and it was already interrupted. A man whose entire body was covered in black fur and armor revealed a trace of a smile as he stood at the entrance of the supervisor's residence. He directly said, "Hurry up and send a message. Just say that I, Emperor Flame Demon, have come to pay a visit." Chapter 533. Within the palace hall of the supervisor envoy's residence. "Monarch, please take a seat." Dongbo Shuang was seated behind a long table, carefully observing Monarch Demonic Flame. Monarch Demonic Flame's entire body was covered in black fur, and his eyes were blood-red. He emitted an evil and cruel aura. His blood-red eyes were even faintly burning with flames. This was a stage 4 world deity with a fearsome reputation. He was much stronger than Monarch Songyong, and was also an existence close to becoming a powerful existence. "Haha, Your Highness, Dongbo's reputation has spread far and wide. Many of us old fellows are discussing Your Highness." Monarch Demonic Flame laughed. "It's a pity that they didn't bring any gifts. Otherwise they would have long since paid you a visit." "Monarch, you praise me too much. Compared to all of you, I'm still lacking," Dongbo Shuang said. "Haha, don't be so humble. If you and I could both become powerful existences, I dare say that you would definitely be ahead of me." Monarch Demonic Flame beamed. However, his face was so savage and ugly that even when he smiled, it was still quite horrifying. "Today, I've come to Your Highness Dongbo's place to deliver a gift to you, as well as to plant some good karma. Haha, I don't expect anything in return from Your Highness. I only hope that Your Highness can help me out once you become a powerful existence." He was determined. If Dongbo Shuang were to become a powerful existence, he would most likely be on the same level as the 3 ancestors. The price to ask for the help of such an existence was simply too great. "Oh." Dongbo Shuang looked at him. This Monarch Demonic Flame was truly confident. "Your Highness, please take a look." Monarch Demonic Flame waved his hand. Oh. 2 female world deities with enormous snake tails immediately appeared, bound in chains. They looked exactly the same. Both were venomous Ying world deities. Venomous Ying? Dongbo Shuang was startled. Both venomous Ying world deities had a hint of despair in their eyes. She looked at Dongbo Shuang with a pleading gaze. "Venomous Ying and I do have some enmity." Dongbo Shuang nodded. "But she poses no threat to me at present. Once I grow stronger in the future, killing her will be as easy as lifting a finger." He no longer placed venomous Ying in his eyes. "This venomous Ying world deity is extremely cautious, and it took me several months to capture her with the help of karma. After all, both of her avatars must be captured at the same time. But what Your Highness said isn't wrong either. Once Your Highness becomes a stage 4 world deity in the future and comprehend the karma deity heart, you'll naturally be able to capture both of her avatars with ease. However, I have acted to capture her so that Your Highness can deal with your enemies more quickly. Furthermore, the venomous Ying world deity has a treasure on her." "Treasure?" Dongbo Shuang was surprised. "Your Highness, please take a look." Emperor Flame Demon flipped his hand and a green leaf appeared in his palm. The green leaf exuded an ancient and boundless aura, making even Dongbo Shuang feel inferior. "This is a remnant of the 10,000 poison record, the supreme inheritance of the voodoo Tao." Monarch Flame Devil chuckled. "I never imagined that this venomous Ying world deity would have such a treasure on her. Even though the Tao of hexing poison is a side path, there are still ways to transcend it. We can use it as a reference. Even though this is just a remnant, it is still a remnant of the 10,000 poison record." Dongbo Shuang glanced at it and shook his head. The Tao of hexing poison mainly focuses on the study of plants, rocks, and other myriad existences. I don't have the mood to study them. Monarch Flame Devil was startled. He felt slightly awkward. Dongbo Shuang was right. Indeed, every Tao had its own similarities. But if the array diagrams of the Black Bug scripture could be used as a reference, then the Tao of hexing poison regarding the study of plants, rocks, and other myriad existences was truly useless. Furthermore, it was just a remnant. Its value was even lower. For instance, the complete black bug scripture was much more valuable than this remnant of the 10,000 poison record. In truth, only absolute arts like the luminous sun, which could be cultivated and allowed one's combat power to rise explosively, were truly priceless. Even a portion of such information was extremely valuable. For instance, the heart sword diagram fragment that Jianghu had obtained was also used for combat and was similarly valuable. This was also the reason why Forefather Golden Firmament was so furious. Forefather Golden Firmament had spent a long period of time just to gather the final part of the heart sword diagram. Yet because of Jianghu he had failed at the last step. Naturally, his anger would soar to the heavens. Even monarch Mo Shui could not protect his daughter. Even Jianghu's previous master, a powerful existence, did not dare to step forward. In her previous life, Jianghu could only grit her teeth and choose to reincarnate, starting a brand new life. Forget about this remnant of the 10,000 poison record. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. He did not think much of it and it was useless to Jianghu. As for his son and daughter, Dongbo Shuang did not wish for them to waste their time on hexing poison. Furthermore, it was just a remnant. The venomous Ying world deity had cultivated for such a long time. If it were the complete version, Dongbo Shuang would still be interested. I'll accept this venomous Ying world deity. Many thanks, Monarch Flame Devil. Dongbo Shuang smiled. I'll remember this favor. Haha, that's fine as well. Monarch Flame Devil stood up. Originally, he had only wanted to give the venomous Ying world deity to Shuang. This remnant piece of the myriad poison record had only been discovered after he had captured her and searched her body. Shuang was a personal disciple of His Majesty, so it was within his expectations that he would look down on the Tao of hexing poison. Then I won't stay any longer. I wish Your Highness Dongbo good luck in becoming a powerful existence soon. Monarch Flame Devil laughed. I'll accept Monarch's auspicious words. Dongbo Shuang also stood up to send him off. These old fellows all treated Dongbo Shuang as an existence on the same level, and they all wanted to befriend him. After all, Dongbo Shuang's combat power was at the stage 4 world deity level, and his potential was much higher than theirs. Even powerful existences could not underestimate Dongbo Shuang. After sending off Monarch Flame Devil, Dongbo Shuang returned to the palace hall. The two venomous Ying world deities were bound, and their true deity hearts had been sealed. They could not struggle at all. Her two avatars looked at Dongbo Shuang and one of them growled, Dongbo Shuang, you're amazing. I admit that I was wrong about you. I didn't dare to disrupt your myriad flower feast, allowing you to become a disciple of His Majesty God Emperor and soar to the heavens. Dongbo Shuang watched from the side. That's right. The reason why he could rise so quickly was because of his master. His master was the strongest expert in the deity world, and his guidance on the chaotic deity heart and extremity deity heart pointed directly to the essence. Furthermore, he had bestowed an absolute art to him as well as many spirit fruits and treasures. Without his master's guidance, his cultivation speed would definitely have been greatly reduced. But this was also normal. Those who had created miracles like Monarch Extermination and Monarch Green had all received nurturing that was not any less than what he had received. Right now, I'm in your hands, the venomous Ying world deity growled. Kill me, kill me. Right now she could neither live nor die. Do you want to die so much? Dongbo Shuang softly asked. The venomous Ying world deity was startled. A sliver of disbelief appeared in her eyes as she said, If Your Highness is willing to spare my life, I'm naturally willing to serve you. You're overthinking things, Dongbo Shuang said. The venomous Ying world deity's eyes were filled with terror. Could you be? What she feared the most was Dongbo Shuang using all sorts of tortures to torture her, making her unable to die even if she wanted to. That was a true nightmare. That was why she had shouted for Dongbo Shuang to kill her from the start. After all, it would be a clean and efficient death and there would be no pain at all. She would truly be tortured for millions or even billions of years. Just the thought of it terrified her. Seeing the terrified look on the venomous Ying world deity's face, Dongbo Shuang sighed inwardly. The winner takes all. Back then, if not for Big Brother White Sand City Lord acting, if not for him being a grade 1 true meaning transcendent, his wife would most likely have been tortured as well. Oh no, his wife Jianghu might be a deity on the surface, but in reality her combat power was probably above that of the venomous Ying world deity. His wife had truly concealed herself deeply, not revealing herself until the very last moment. Let us end our grudges here. Dongbua Shuiying extended his finger, causing 2 streams of white light to fly out from his fingertips. They drilled into the foreheads of the 2 venomous Ying world deity bodies, instantly destroying the sealed true deity heart within them. The aura of the 2 venomous Ying world deity bodies dissipated. Only a look of relief could be seen on their faces. Dongbua Shuiying shook his head inwardly. One could not be too overbearing in one's actions. Not giving others a path of survival was the same as not giving oneself a path of survival. Even though he was a personal disciple of His Majesty and a lord of a material world, he was only vicious and merciless towards his enemies. He would not be too excessive towards other world deities. After all, if one offended too many people, one could very well end up kicking an iron plate. The venomous Ying world deity had previously not placed a deity brat in her eyes. How could she have known that one of the people she had offended was a grade 1 true meaning transcendent, while the other was someone stronger than her, Jingqiu? Chapter 534. Time passed. Dongbua Shuiying's influence within the Kamsi prefecture grew. Everyone knew that there were only 2 clans with the highest status in the prefecture. One was the Kamsi prefecture master, the Longshi clan, and the other was the Dongbua clan. Even Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao had great influence within the prefecture. When it came to Dongbua Shuiying, many powers would find it hard to even meet him. As such, they could only settle for the next best thing, befriending Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao. To this, Shuiying and his wife did not demand too much from their children. They only focused more on guiding them in their cultivation. As for the issue of their moral character, they had already endured in the Crimson Rock Mountain world for several thousand years. Their character had long since been set, and they did not have to worry about becoming a silk pants. However, there was one thing that made Jingqiu feel helpless. Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao did not really listen to her. Perhaps they felt that their mother was only a peak stage deity, and they were also peak stage deities. Why should they listen to her? Even though they were their mother, they only listened to her on the surface. In their hearts, they still harbored some doubts. They did not dare to cultivate according to their mother's instructions, fearing that they would go astray. They worshipped Dongbua Shuiying even more, and they had absolute trust in Dongbua Shuiying's teachings. Dongbua Shuiying felt helpless about this. You 2 brats don't even know that your mother is actually a stage 4 world deity. Her realm is even higher than mine. Furthermore, stage 4 world deities are already beginning to comprehend the various deity hearts of the laws of heaven and earth. Others could only beg for such guidance, but these 2 brats were not willing to listen to it. But she couldn't say it out loud, so Jingqiu could only swallow her grievances. Still, she was worried about her children, so she told Shuiying many of her thoughts about her children's cultivation. In the underground hall of the supervisor envoy's residence, Dongbua Shuiying was seated cross-legged. A gigantic black formation appeared in front of him. The gigantic formation exuded a dark aura as countless profound mysteries fused together. Dark world. Dongbua Shuiying muttered softly. Flowers were blooming, plants were growing, the sun was shining, the wind was blowing, the gravel was flying, the river was rippling, the mountains were undulating. The world is colorful and all-encompassing. Everything can be accommodated. It's just that my current cultivation level is low, and my usage of the laws and profound mysteries is very ordinary. Compared to the black bug scripture and luminous sun, the difference is too great. Dongbua Shuiying thought to himself. In recent years, he had been meticulously studying and absorbing some of the laws of profound mysteries from the array diagram, continuously perfecting his own secret technique. The more he improved, the greater the gap between them. He was filled with respect for the seniors who created the black bug scripture and luminous sun. Prison. Dongbua Shuiying thought. Hua hua hua. Countless white chains danced around him. They were incomparably gentle and rippled like water, permeating the entire hall. If it was said that when he was at the second heavenly layer, Dongbua Shuiying's world prison was still layered with all sorts of bindings and restraints, it was extremely hard to deal with. But now this world prison was as gentle as water, and did not seem tyrannical at all. Only when one was truly trapped in this prison would one understand how terrifying it was. I'm improving. After Jingqiu's inner world broke through to the fourth heavenly layer, and she obtained a blood-refined deity weapon, she is also improving. Dongbua Shuiying mumbled to himself, right now, she can only protect herself in front of my wife. Pitiful. Even now he was still being suppressed by his wife. Although she had already reached the third revolution of the third volume of the Luminous Sun, 2 years ago, greatly increasing her strength, The blood-refined deity weapon she refined was a gigantic sword that could split into 9 thin swords. These 9 thin swords displayed some of the techniques from the remnant of the heart sword diagram, and were extremely powerful. Clearly, the large amount of array diagrams from the Black Bug scripture was of great help to Jingqiu when she was comprehending the remnant of the heart sword diagram. Dongbu Shuiying was considered not bad amongst stage 4 world deities, but he could only protect himself. However, being able to protect himself meant that the two of them were very close in strength. In the starry sky on a cold, desolate star. This star was completely condensed from ice, emitting an endless amount of cold air. The gravity here was extremely strong, and even ordinary transcendents would not be able to survive here. Wah! An old man with snow-white hair and a snow-white beard, dressed in a black robe, suddenly appeared out of thin air, appearing in the depths of this icy planet's Grand Canyon. He stretched out his hand, and a crystalline grain of sand appeared in his hand. With a thought, the crystalline grain of sand changed into ordinary ice particles. He threw it, and the grain of sand in his hand burrowed into the layer of ice beneath his feet, becoming inconspicuous. So, he took a step forward and immediately disappeared. He had already arrived at another void far away. Looking at the distant dark star, the snow-white bearded black-robed old man laughed coldly. I am Shui, am about to lose my true deity heart and am preparing to reincarnate. Why would I be afraid of your threats? To be able to use this old life of mine which is about to die, to fight for a future for my daughter, it is worth it. My daughter's husband is Dongbu Shuiying. My daughter has already reached the stage 4 world deity realm. With my daughter's talent, although there is hope for her to become a powerful existence, it is still very difficult. However, with my help and her husband's help, she will definitely succeed. Monarch Mo Shui felt extremely carefree in his heart. Just a moment ago, another of his avatars had done something that made him feel delighted. Hong Long Long, suddenly, a huge black array diagram began to appear in the surrounding vast void. The array diagram spanned more than 1 trillion miles, and each and every star was just a small dot in this huge array diagram. Under the cover of the terrifying array diagram, the surrounding spacetime was completely sealed and even solidified. Even with Monarch Mo Shui's strength, he could only fly with difficulty. Mo Shui, you can't escape. Hong 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 Hong. Consecutively, 5 figures appeared in different directions of the huge black array diagram. 5 figures each with a powerful aura. One of them was a huge black dragon with its head held high. There was also an old lady, leaning on a wooden walking stick. The old lady's hair, however, extended for hundreds of millions of miles, turning into grayish-brown tree roots. Countless tree roots took root in the void. There was also a cold youth. Apart from the 3 of them being powerful existences. Of the other 2, one was a charming red-robed woman, and the other was a rock giant whose entire body was burning with flames. These 2 were stage 4 world deities, but their power was not the least bit weaker than powerful existences. Mo Shui, your true deity heart is about to break apart, and you have no hope of transcending. Why must you fight with us for the true God weapon? The rock giant bellowed, flames rising from the surface of his body. Mo Shui. The huge black dragon said, if you hand over the true God weapon you still have a chance to reincarnate. Otherwise you won't even have the chance to reincarnate. I really don't know where you, Mo Shui, got the guts to actually dare to trick me. The cold youth's eyes were filled with anger. Mo Shui, if you turn back now and listen to me, I naturally won't treat you unfairly. The 5 terrifying experts surrounded him. Monarch Mo Shui laughed. Threatening me? I, Mo Shui, have been unhindered in the deity world for over 10 billion years, and today my true deity heart is about to break apart. What do I still have to fear? If you continue to resist, you won't even have the chance to reincarnate. The cold youth bellowed. Reincarnate? How many stage 4 world deities can succeed in reincarnating? Monarch Mo Shui sneered, don't use this to threaten me. Supervisor Envoy Mansion, Underground Hall. Snow Eagle, Snow Eagle. Dongbu Shuiying was currently cultivating when Jingqiu's voice came from another secret room in the hall. Man? Dongbu Shuiying opened his eyes, and the door leading to another secret room opened. Jingqiu immediately walked in. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Dongbu Shuiying looked at his wife. Jingqiu was anxious and uneasy. Snow Eagle, something happened to my father. Chapter 535. Don't be anxious, what happened to Monarch Mo Shui? Dongbo Shuiying discovered that his wife's emotions were not quite right. As a stage 4 world deity, his wife rarely lost her composure. Jing Qiu tried her best to calm herself down before speaking with a trembling voice. It's like this, one of the bodies my father left behind to guard the empire was ambushed and killed. What? Dongbo Shuiying was shocked. Monarch Mo Shui's avatar left behind to guard the empire? His strength is comparable to powerful existences, and he was left behind in his own territory, unable to even escape, yet he was killed? Jing Qiu nodded. A total of 5 people acted, 3 powerful existences and 2 extremely powerful stage 4 world deities. They are Emperor Prison Dragon, Withered Tree Old Mother, 9 Young Palace Head, Red Transient Empress and Sovereign Zhe Nua. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed. Father-in-law provoked so many experts to join hands to deal with him? And even the Dark Abyss got involved. Of the 5, Red Transient Empress and Sovereign Zhe Nua were both stage 4 world deities. And Sovereign Zhe Nua was a lava giant from the Dark Abyss, extremely powerful. Although the deity world and the Dark Abyss rarely interacted, if a world deity dared to barge into the Dark Abyss, they would be surrounded and killed. However, most powerful existences would often move together and enter some ancient ruins together. If they reached the level of Blood Blade, even the Abyss ruler would be willing to befriend them, and Blood Blade's Bloodshed Tavern could be opened throughout the entire Dark Abyss. Emperor Prison Dragon and Withered Tree Old Mother are fine, but that 9 Young Palace Head is the personal disciple of the Temporal Island Lord. He has an absolute art and is extremely powerful, close to the 3 ancestors. Dongbo Shuiying said. He actually disregarded his reputation and joined hands with the other 4 to deal with father-in-law? Jing Qiu nodded lightly. What about father-in-law's other avatar? Dongbo Shuiying asked. It's fine for now. Jing Qiu was slightly uneasy. Dongbo Shuiying heaved a sigh of relief and asked, then why did the 5 of them attack father-in-law? Father knows that I have reached the stage 4 world deity realm, and that you have become a stage 2 world deity in a short 5,000 years, and have been accepted as a personal disciple by God Emperor. Jing Qiu said. Father immediately relaxed. Because his true deity heart was on the verge of collapsing, he decided to give it his all before he reincarnated. Let's go to the extremely dangerous ancient ruin Lake Heart Island, to explore. Dongbo Shuiying nodded lightly. The ancient ruins had survived until now. There were also differences in the degree of danger. For example, the ruins discovered by Monarch Yong could be considered to be one of the less dangerous ones. As for the ruins of Lake Heart Island, it had an illustrious reputation amongst powerful existences and stage 4 world deities. This was an extremely terrifying remnant. Even His Majesty God Emperor, Temporal Island Lord and the others were unable to truly explore and understand it. Over the long years, stage 4 world deities and a few powerful existences had ventured forth wave after wave. Of course, everyone only sent their avatars forward. Even if he died in battle, he could at least cultivate it back. There were many special places in the Lake Heart Island ruins. For example, forming his own laws. The laws within the ruins of Lake Heart Island were very special. Even the operating laws of the God world were unable to affect them. My father was working together with 9 Young Palace Master and Emperor Prison Dragon. Jing Qiu said. Later on, my father discovered a true God weapon, and immediately fled with it, provoking the 9 Young Palace Head and the others to chase after him. Furthermore, the ruins of the Lake Heart Island are filled with danger. My father has now charged into a whirlpool, and is currently trapped in the depths of the island. I was able to temporarily escape from the pursuit of the 9 Young Palace Head and the others. The 5 of them then joined forces to destroy one of my father's avatars. The Lake Heart Island historical remnant has its own system, and my father is trapped inside, unable to reincarnate. They are currently in the Lake Heart Island historical remnant, chasing after my father. Dongbo Shuiying nodded lightly. Lake Heart Island ruins, its internal laws were completely isolated from the outside world. Be it the laws of the divine realm, the material world or the dark abyss, none of them could affect it. Therefore he couldn't even reincarnate in the Lake Heart Island ruins. Because his soul was unable to leave the Lake Heart Island ruins. My father told me that even if he reincarnates, the possibility of him regaining his memories after becoming a god is very low. He had lived long enough, so he risked his life to obtain this true god weapon. Jing Qiu said softly, my father told me where he hid the true god weapon. It is in the depths of the Lake Heart Island historical remnant. Although my father is still fleeing, he doesn't have the true god weapon on him. Even if the Nine-Yang Palace head and the others managed to catch up to my father, they wouldn't be able to obtain the true God weapon. Jingqiu's voice was very soft, and her eyes were slightly red. Dongbo Shuiying sighed inwardly. This father-in-law was really going all out for his daughter. It was too easy for an expert to hide a true God weapon. Monarch Mo Shui could casually take out a few treasures that could isolate all probing. As long as the true God weapon's aura was isolated, it could isolate all probing. Within the enormous Lake Heart Island historical remnant, it was hidden somewhere. How could others discover it? True God weapon. No wonder the Nine-Yang Palace head and the others went crazy. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. Jingqiu nodded. I advised my father, but he wasn't willing to lower his head. However, within the Lake Heart Island historical remnant, my father is basically unable to reincarnate. Although the chances of reincarnation are low, there is still hope. Didn't I succeed? My father said that using his life that is about to collapse, to exchange for a true God weapon, it is worth it. But Dongbo Shuiying could completely understand Monarch Mo Shui's thoughts. True God weapon. What was a true God weapon? According to the cultivation realms, cultivators could be divided into transcendents, deities, world deities, and powerful existences. And powerful existences had another name called true God. Only those who had transcended from the river of time, truly eternal gods, had the qualifications to be called true God. They had already truly grasped their own fate, transcending above the laws of heaven and earth. They had even begun to weave their own laws. Just like world deity weapons to world deities. True God weapons were also very important to powerful existences. Because in the deity world and abyss, there were countless world deities. Naturally, there were those who were proficient in refining weapons, and there were even powerful existences. Thus, refining a world deity weapon was an extremely easy matter. But refining a true God weapon was extremely difficult. Those ordinary powerful existences could not even refine a true God weapon. At most, they could refine a Eden treasure that contained the complete laws of heaven and earth. A Eden treasure did not need to be used for battle, it only needed to open up a world within. Thus, it was the simplest true God weapon. Usually, what powerful existences fought for were those true God weapons that were used for battle. Those true God weapons, every single one of them contained the complete laws of heaven and earth, and possessed the power to destroy the heavens and earth. But the difficulty in refining them was too great. Usually, only those at the level of Blood Blade and the Temporal Island Lord could barely refine them after spending a lot of effort. Thus, in the deity world, the number of true God weapons were very few. Among powerful existences, 8 or 9 out of 10 did not have a true God weapon. Something that could make powerful existences go crazy, your father is not willing to give it up. That is very normal. Dongbo Shuiying said. This is a simple and unadorned godly sword. Father knows that I am researching sword techniques, so he is even more unwilling to give it up. Jingqiu said with a pained heart, but to give up the chance to reincarnate just like that? Reincarnating was equivalent to a chance for a brand new life. Even though it was not guaranteed success, the moment one gave up, it would be a definite failure. He would really die. Father. Jingqiu had a pained expression. Snow Eagle, if only I did not hide my identity and revealed it earlier, they would know that Dongbo Shuiying's wife is the daughter of Monarch Mo Shui. Wouldn't they have some restraining fear and not be so ruthless? Don't think so much. Dongbo Shuiying lightly hugged his wife. Even if you reveal your identity, those 5 would not care about me. Jingqiu said, Oh right, my father has hidden all his treasures on an icy star. Let us go and retrieve them first. All right. He instructed his subordinates, telling them to report to him if there was anything. Following which, Dongbo Shuiying brought Jingqiu and left stealthily. They sat on the Starfield flying ship as they traveled. After leaving the territory of the Bloodshed God Palace, with the detailed star map provided by Monarch Mo Shui, the Starfield flying ship soon arrived at an icy star. After keeping the Starfield flying ship, Dongbo Shuiying and the masked silver-haired woman landed on the surface of the icy star. Jingqiu had to conceal her identity when moving outside. Otherwise, if others were to find out that Dongbo Shuiying's wife was a stage 4 world deity, it would definitely attract a lot of attention. She might even be seen through by Forefather Golden Firmament. That would be a huge problem. Naturally, it was best to avoid trouble as much as possible. Just up ahead. Jingqiu surveyed her surroundings, then brought Dongbo Shuiying forward. With a single step, she crossed thousands of kilometers. After just a few steps, They arrived at the deepest part of a gloomy canyon. Jingqiu swept her gaze across, confirming the region. Chapter 536. Dongbo Shuang watched from the side. He could guess that the treasure hidden by his father-in-law was definitely something that blocked all probing. Ka! Jingqiu extended her fair right hand and pointed forward. The gigantic layer of ice on the ground of the canyon began to tear apart and float upwards. Following that, the gigantic layer of ice that floated upwards began to rapidly disappear. The might of a stage 4 world deity, even a trace of it, was enough to destroy this entire planet. Not to mention the thousands of miles of ice floating in the air. The layer of ice turned into nothingness, leaving behind only a few ice crystal fragments. That's it. Jingqiu waved her hand, and the ice crystal fragments landed on her palm. Let's go, Jingqiu said. The two of them sat on the Starfield flying ship and returned. On the Starfield flying ship. This is Father's Eden treasure. Jingqiu looked at the sand in her palm. Since Father sent his avatar to the Lake Heart Island, he naturally wouldn't bring the Eden treasure with him. Now that Father is in the Lake Heart Island, the ruins are filled with danger. Nine-Yang Palace head and the other 4 enemies as well as other experts will probably join in as well. AI? Jingqiu's eyes were filled with anxiety. Jingqiu, why don't we go to the Lake Heart Island? Dongbo Shuang said. Jingqiu raised her head and looked at Dongbo Shuang. Her eyes were filled with shock. Snow Eagle, go to the Lake Heart Island? But that place is too dangerous. There's no need for you to take such a risk just because of my father. She did have the intention to help her father, but she wasn't willing to let Dongbo Shuang take such a risk. Aha, your husband's original body is in the material world. What's there to be afraid of? At most, this body will just die in the Lake Heart Island. Dongbo Shuang laughed. Moreover, I feel that I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. I'm not very proficient in the Tao of space-time, so it's quite taxing for me to cultivate. More importantly, it's been a long time since I've experienced danger. I can feel my willpower and fighting spirit fading away. I need to experience danger. A blade gets sharper the more it is sharpened. Living too comfortably will only corrode our fighting spirit. Dongbo Shuang said, you and I are both stage 4 world deities, so the danger level of ordinary ruins is slightly lower. The Lake Heart Island relic was fraught with danger. That was what made it interesting. Saving father-in-law is one aspect of this trip, and the other is to train ourselves. When Jingqiu heard this, her heart was moved. If he wanted to temper himself, why did he need to go to the Lake Heart Island? That place was too dangerous. It had even surpassed the scope of training. Dongbo Shuang looked at his wife and said, I've decided to explore the ruins of Lake Heart Island. Are you coming with me? Jingqiu nodded. Let's go together. Before we go, we should make some preparations as well. Dongbo Shuang revealed a smile. Yes, we have to be fully prepared. Jingqiu was well aware of the level of danger. She did not even know if it was the right decision to bring the Snow Eagle along. However, it was clear that Dongbo Shuang had already made up his mind. Of course, Jingqiu felt warm in her heart. It was a magnificent and continuous palace. Flower petals fluttered in the air. Within one of the halls, the white-robed beauty, 7th Meiyu, felt somewhat uneasy. 7th Meiyu had already become a world deity, but as a stage 1 world deity, she could not participate in the matters of her father. Father. What should we do? Father is being chased. 7th Meiyu was anxious. Just a moment ago her master, Monarch Mother Whirlpool, had issued an order. Disciple, your father, Monarch Emo Shue's true body, is being surrounded and killed. His clone hiding in the ruins of Lake Heart Island is also being chased. It's not good for me to interfere in his matters. From today onwards you will stay here with me. Do not go out and cause trouble. Although the news of Monarch Emo Shue was rather secretive, it had already begun to spread amongst the stage 4 world deities and powerful existences. Even the furious Nine-Yang Palace head and withered tree old mother had hinted to the stage 4 world deities to occupy the Emo Shue Empire. In just a few days the news began to spread. Your Highness, the empire is currently on the verge of collapse, and the surrounding empires are beginning to infiltrate our Emo Shue Empire. I'm afraid that the empire is finished. Your Highness, the third Highness world deity clone self-detonated, and her palace has been occupied. Many world deities are beginning to betray the empire. Little sister, don't come back. Little sister, we're all fine, but the empire will definitely not be able to hold on. News came one after another, causing 7th Meiyu to feel anxious and uneasy. Monarch Mo Shui also sent a message, but only once. Little 7, you can stay at Monarch Mother Whirlpool's place without worry. The monarch is more than enough to protect you. You don't have to worry about my matters. Not worried? How could she not be worried? I want to see Master. 7th May, you wanted to beg her, Master. Junior apprentice sister, Master doesn't want to see you. She said that she won't interfere in this matter, the personal maid of Monarch Mother Whirlpool said. Of course she wasn't willing to interfere. This matter implicated too many experts, especially the Nine Yang Palace head. He was the beloved disciple of the Temporal Island Lord, and his strength was also very powerful. No matter how protective Monarch Mother Whirlpool was, it was impossible for her to fight against several powerful existences for a single disciple. Dongbua Shuiying had also returned to the Supervisor Envoy's mansion, and was preparing to head to the legendary Lake Heart Island historical remnant. What? Dongbua Shuiying soon received news that the entire Mo Shui Empire was in a precarious situation, and would most likely fall apart very soon. Snow Eagle, what should we do? Jingqiu asked. My father's clone is still trapped in the faraway Lake Heart Island historical remnant, and the surrounding empires have already begun to infiltrate. For them to dare to do so, I'm afraid there's a powerful existence behind them. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. To a stage 4 world deity, the size of their empire didn't make much of a difference. Moreover, Monarch Mo Shui hadn't truly died yet. How about this? I'll think of a way, Dongbua Shuiying said. He then used his communication treasure to contact Monarch Qin. It's me, Dongbua Shuiying. Your Highness Dongbua, how rare. I wonder if you're looking for me? I've also heard about Monarch Mo Shui's matter. During the Myriad Flower Feast, Monarch Mo Shui had once given me pointers in cultivation. I can't forget this kindness. Now that he's dead or alive, I'm powerless to do anything. However, I have to protect his Mo Shui empire. Oh, so Monarch Mo Shui and your Highness still have this kind of kindness. Dongbua Shuiying quickly started contacting them one by one. Previously, there were many stage 4 world deities who came to visit him. Naturally, he had their contact details. He contacted more than 10 monarchs around the Mo Shui Empire, expressing that Monarch Mo Shui had done a great kindness to him, Dongbua Shuiying, and that he had to protect his empire. Dongbua Shuiying even asked them to help spread his message, letting everyone know. Mo Shui Empire. The graceful and luxurious 5th Highness, world deity He Shui, was currently standing in midair angrily, looking at a grandiose troop in the distance. The leader was a stage 3 world deity. You're also betraying my Mo Shui Empire? This beautiful world deity He Shui said angrily, General Qin, my father has treated you well. The monarch's true deity heart is already on the verge of collapsing, and he has also offended many almighties. 5th Highness, I have no choice. The long-bearded world deity said indifferently, 5th Highness, it's best if you don't resist. Otherwise, if I accidentally kill you, there's nothing I can do. Good, very good. World deity He Shui's heart was filled with grief and indignation. Her other avatar had already left long ago, but seeing the entire empire falling apart, seeing the huge empire that her father had managed being destroyed just like that, she also felt grief and indignation. Suddenly, the long-bearded world deity's expression changed. He frowned and waved his hand, retreat. The troops under his command were somewhat at a loss. World deity He Shui was also somewhat at a loss. On the same day, the surrounding empires that had begun to infiltrate the entire Mo Shui Empire quickly stopped, and Mo Shui Empire quickly regained its stability. This caused some of the loyal world deities of Mo Shui Empire and the daughters of the monarch to be somewhat stunned. However, very quickly they received news that the personal disciple of God Emperor, His Highness Dongbua Shuiying, had already sent a message. During the Myriad Flower Feast, he had received guidance from Monarch Mo Shui in his cultivation, and he wanted to protect Mo Shui Empire. That was Dongbua Shuiying. To the stage 4 world deities, there was really no need to offend Dongbua Shuiying for Mo Shui Empire. Even Withered Tree Old Mother, Prison Dragon Emperor, and Nine Yang Palace head knew about it, but they did not do anything. After all, Dongbua Shuiying's potential was indeed terrifying. Once he became an almighty, he would most likely be at the level of the 3 ancestors. Moreover, Dongbua Shuiying only wanted to protect an empire. It was not like he was protecting Monarch Mo Shui himself. Naturally, no one was willing to smear Dongbua Shuiying's face because of this. 7th Meiyu, who was under Monarch Mother Whirlpool, also knew everything. Dongbua Shuiying publicly sent a message to protect Mo Shui Empire? 7th Meiyu was startled. The youth who had participated in the myriad flower feast with her back then had already reached such a stage. Just by sending a message, everyone had already given him face. Because of father's guidance? 7th Mei Yu's heart was filled with gratitude. However, she did not know that Dongbo Shuiying was actually her brother-in-law. Chapter 537. The Imo Shui Empire regained its tranquility. Shuiying, who was located in the distant Bloodshed God Palace territory, was also paying close attention to the development of the situation. Once he found out that the surrounding empires had stopped their actions, he specially sent a message to express his gratitude. Those monarchs were all very polite, saying, "If we had known earlier about the relationship between Monarch Imo Shui and your highness, we would not have acted." All of them were very polite. Dongbo Shuiying did not blame them for their actions. After all, the world of cultivators was cruel, and if they did not have a good relationship, who would help Imo Shui? In fact, under the deterrence of existences like the 9 Young Emperor and Withered Tree Old Mother, ordinary stage 4 world deities would not dare to act. That was because Shuiying was still young, and at the time when he was showing off his talent. When he acted, everyone would give him some face. But that was only a small matter. If it involved a true opportunity such as transcending the river of time and gaining eternity, or a treasure like a true god weapon, then it did not matter whose face it was. Who? A Starfield flying ship left the Calm Sea Prefecture's eastern region city and began its journey. On the deck of the flying ship, Dongbo Shuiying and the masked Jing Qiu were currently looking at the colorful passageway around them. Snow Eagle, the Lake Heart Island ruins are said to have existed since the birth of the deity world, Jing Qiu said. You and I have collected a lot of information and my father has also given me a lot of information. But no matter how much information you read, it is still different from experiencing it yourself. Most people on the Lake Heart Island have the power to fight against powerful existences, and only then are they qualified to explore it. Peak Stage 4 world deities like us will still find it very difficult to explore it. There are some Stage 4 world deities who enter, but they are prepared to lose their avatars. Jing Qiu, don't underestimate yourself. Our combat power is still quite high. Dongbo Shuiying grinned. He had cultivated the third boundary of the third volume of the Luminous Sun, greatly increasing his combat power. Furthermore, he had created 3 secret skills over the years. He was likely even stronger than Monarch Zhang. His wife's strength was on par with his. Strictly speaking, she could still suppress him in a fight. Perhaps when compared to eldest senior brother Huiming, both of them were slightly inferior. However, among the universe deities of the fourth heaven, he was still quite good. He was much stronger than those newly advanced universe deities of the fourth heaven. Our goal this time isn't to enter the Lake Heart Island ruins to search for treasures. Dongbo Shuiying said, if there are any dangerous places, we'll just try our best to hide. This time, our goal is to save your father and bring back the true god weapon. Jing Qiu nodded lightly. If you feel that it's dangerous, then try to avoid it. If one's goal was to find treasures, the more special a place was, the more one would want to explore it. Only special places would contain treasures. The purpose of this couple was different from the majority of Stage 4 world deities. The speed of the Starfield flying ship was extremely fast. Dongbo Shuiying and his wife chatted for a while before the flying ship left the Bloodshed God Palace territory and reached the distant Myriad God Palace territory. The Lake Heart Island relic was located at the edge of the Pantheon Temple's territory. We're here. The spacetime tunnel opened up ahead, and the Starfield flying ship flew out from it. Dongbo Shuiying and his wife looked ahead. The flying ship's surroundings had been concealed by them, and there were also treasures that could isolate them from detection. Other experts who were far away would not be able to discover the spacetime undulations here. Lake Heart Island. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu looked ahead. In the distant starry sky, there was an incomparably huge silvery white sphere of water. According to the intelligence reports, this enormous silvery white sphere of water had a diameter of 1.89 trillion kilometers. Even though it was called Lake Heart Island, in reality, this island was located at the very center of the entire sphere. It has existed since the birth of the deity world. Even my teacher and the others are unable to grasp it. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. I wonder where it came from. His Majesty, God Emperor, and the others should know about it. It's just that they won't tell us about it. Jing Qiu said, perhaps in the eyes of His Majesty, God Emperor, we are still too weak. Since they won't tell us, we'll go in and take a look ourselves. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. So. After keeping the Starfield flying ship, The husband and wife immediately tore through the void at high speed. With every step they took, they easily traversed a great distance. Wah wah wah. At the outermost perimeter of the sphere, countless waves could be seen rolling about. Enter. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu exchanged a glance, then charged in without any hesitation. Bonk. The surface of their bodies was surging with energy. The surface of Shuiying's body was that of the purest and most unyielding luminous sun force, while the surface of his wife Jing Qiu's body was that of a flowing violet light. This was a world deity-ranked secret technique she had cultivated after becoming a stage 4 world deity, the Violet Sunrise. Firstly, it was so that she could conceal her identity and could no longer use her previous world deity-ranked secret techniques. Secondly, after becoming a stage 4 world deity, she would be able to comprehend more secret techniques by analogy. This was a secret technique Jing Qiu had chosen within Crimson Rock Mountain to complement her own sword techniques. So cold. After entering the interior of the enormous island, Dongbo Shuiying could feel the surrounding water surging. The coldness began to seep in, causing Dongbo Shuiying to rely on his luminous sun force to isolate himself from the cold. This silvery white water was incomparably heavy. Every single drop of water was extremely heavy. It was much heavier than an ordinary star. Only stage 4 world deities, who possessed the power to destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth, could fly within it with relative ease. The laws here are really strange. Jing Qiu said, even I can't reach the critical god domain. My violet sunrise is being suppressed too much, and I can only extend it to a distance of 5 kilometers. Snow Eagle, what about you? Meh. It's still spreading. Dongbo Shuiying said. His luminous sun force was indeed still spreading. Dongbo Shuiying was a stage 3 world deity. How could he fight against a stage 4 world deity? It was all because of his luminous sun force. Having reached the third transition of the third volume, his luminous sun force was already extremely ferocious. Every single strand of his luminous sun force was incomparably sharp, permeating through the water. However, it was constantly being weakened by the impact of the water. After permeating through a distance of 2 million kilometers, it was finally unable to proceed any further. 2 million kilometers. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. So far? Jing Qiu was overjoyed. The water of the island wasn't turbid, but they could only see a little over 1,000 kilometers with their naked eyes. The scouting treasures we brought are temporarily useless. They can only see the surrounding 50,000 kilometers. Your luminous sun force is truly formidable. I wonder how powerful it would be if you could reach the fourth transition of the third volume. At that time, my strength should be comparable to senior apprentice brother Huiming. Dongbo Shuiying said, however, I'm still bitterly comprehending the fourth transition. My true body is also comprehending it in Crimson Rock Mountain, but I'm still far from it. An absolute art is truly formidable. Jing Qiu couldn't help but sigh. An absolute art that could allow a stage 3 world deity to possess the strength of a powerful existence. It was no wonder that even powerful existences coveted it. It was a pity that a truly complete absolute art was simply too rare. Almost all of them were in the hands of God Emperor, Temporal Island Lord, and the others. Oh, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master also had an absolute art he could impart to them. The two of them were relatively relaxed as they traversed through the majestic water flow. Dongbo Shuiying's mind was constantly recalling the information he had read about the Lake Heart Island. The danger level of the vast water flow in the outermost region of the island was relatively low, but there were still several dangers that could easily kill powerful existences or even the three ancestors. Furthermore, the inner regions of the island were filled with terrifying dangers that even God Emperor and the others could only look on in awe. The luminous sun force permeated the surrounding 2 million kilometers, probing for danger. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu carefully flew forward. Amen? Dongbo Shuiying suddenly frowned. He could feel a majestic power that seemed to be able to suppress everything coming into contact with his luminous sun force. This power seemed to be very smooth, yet it was able to suppress his luminous sun force in an upright manner. Chapter 538. It's an undercurrent. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed as he transmitted anxiously, Jing Qiu, there's an undercurrent coming. Jing Qiu's expression changed as well. It was normal for some large lakes and oceans to have undercurrents. As for the huge silvery white ball of water on the island, it was only natural for undercurrents to surge. However, its undercurrents were extremely powerful, and every single drop of water was extremely heavy. Under calm circumstances, flying within it was an extremely strenuous task. This undercurrent was much more terrifying. The impact of the undercurrent was too powerful, and ordinary stage 4 world deities would not be able to withstand it. Only some of the more powerful existences would dare to use their bodies to withstand the impact of the undercurrent. Even if they could withstand it with their bodies, they would still be swept away by the undercurrent and lose control of their bodies. As for the weaker ones, they would not be able to escape in time and would usually hide within their Starfield flying ship. The Starfield flying ship was an extremely sturdy world deity weapon. At the very least, it was much sturdier than the bodies of world deities and could withstand the impact. However, one would still be swept along with the undercurrent. If one's luck was good, one might even have a fortuitous encounter. However, the majority of the time it would be dangerous. Let's go. Dongbo Shuang brought his wife along. Borrowing the luminous sun force, he sensed the direction of the undercurrent and began to flee. Hong Long Long, the enormous undercurrent covered a distance of over 100 million kilometers, its speed reaching at least 100,000 kilometers per second. If they were in the void, Dongbo Shuang would not have cared. However, within the flow of the island, his and his wife's flying speed was extremely slow. They could only feel the undercurrent getting closer and closer to them. It covered a distance of over 100 million kilometers, making it extremely difficult to evade. Quick, quick, quick. Dongbo Shuang fled with all his might. If we can't escape, we can only hide within the Starfield flying ship and try our luck. Dongbo Shuang felt bitter in his heart. He did not expect to meet with trouble before even reaching the core island. If he were to die in the water, that would be truly unbearable. However, there were indeed many stage 4 world deities and powerful existences who died in the water. None of them were able to land on the island. Whoosh, Dongbo Shuang brought along his wife and flew with all his might. Everything in this place was being suppressed so much that he could not even use his world deity domain, much less travel through the void. The turbulent undercurrent was like a gigantic monster, crushing everything in its way. The distance between them and Dongbo Shuang was getting shorter and shorter. 1 million miles, 900,000 miles, 800,000 miles. Snow Eagle, I didn't think we'd run into such trouble as soon as we entered, Jing transmitted. There are meteors. Dongbo Shuang was overjoyed. Lake Heart Island. There were hundreds of millions of meteorites orbiting around the central island. These meteorites were all inside the water current. Of course, these weren't ordinary meteorites from the starry skies. The hardness of these meteorites was beyond imagination. Even now there was no way to destroy them. Hundreds of millions of meteorites formed an extremely mysterious array formation, protecting the island in the center of the lake. The meteorite at the center of the lake was the safest place for cultivators who needed to pass through the water. Quick, 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 it's on the left. Dongbo Shuang and his wife rushed in that direction with all their might. Fortunately, the direction of the undercurrent wasn't in the same direction as the meteorites. Dongbo Shuang and the rest were flying with all their might. I see it. The two of them saw a gigantic meteorite. The meteorite at the center of the lake was only 5,000 miles in diameter. It was still relatively small, with hundreds of millions of meteorites the same size. The meteorite itself was pitch black, and there were many huge ravine vein patterns on its surface. These ravine patterns seemed like a mysterious and ancient array formation. However, it was only a small part of the array formed by hundreds of millions of meteorites. Dongbo Shuang couldn't understand these arrays at all. The ravine patterns were like a canyon. Dongbo Shuang and his wife charged towards one of the closest ravine patterns on the surface of the meteorite. The ravine patterns were at least 5 kilometers deep. Just as the two of them entered the ravine and heaved a sigh of relief, they felt a majestic might sweeping towards them. Hong Long Long Long, the huge undercurrent swept over. The current was much faster and more ferocious, crushing everything in its path as it ruthlessly swept against the meteorite. However, the meteorite was indestructible, and it completely ignored the undercurrent. As the undercurrent swept across the surface of the meteorite, although there were some shockwaves within the ravine patterns, they were much weaker. Hoo. Dongbo Shuang and his wife grabbed onto the cliff beside them. When some of the weaker shockwaves swept across the canyon, the shockwaves caused Dongbo Shuang and his wife to lose their balance. But very quickly the shockwaves receded. Good fella. Dongbo Shuang and his wife heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, we were close to a meteorite at the center of the lake. Dongbo Shuang sighed. Otherwise, if we were swept along by the undercurrent, we would have no choice but to move forward. Although there aren't many dangers in the undercurrent, we would still be dragged forward by it. As long as we move forward, we wouldn't be able to escape from it. As time passes, we might still meet with danger and lose our lives. Snow Eagle, look. Jingqiu pointed downwards. Man. Dongbu Shuang looked over as well. This canyon was over 5 kilometers deep, and over 1,000 kilometers long. In the depths of the canyon, one could faintly see a mansion. Mansion. Dongbu Shuang was shocked. This was definitely a mansion, the mansion of a cultivator. Snow Eagle, let's go take a look. Jingqiu said. All right. I wonder if it's a mansion built recently, or a mansion built a long time ago. Dongbu Shuang transmitted over as he flew over with his wife. At the same time, his luminous sun force spread out rapidly, enveloping the entire region. There are over 100 million meteorites at the center of the lake. Moreover, they are scattered across the vast undercurrent. It's already a coincidence that they were able to land on this particular meteorite. It's unlikely that they were cultivators from the same era. Jingqiu said. Unless they're powerful existences with eternal life. Soon. Shuang and his wife arrived at the main entrance of the mansion. The mansion was not considered big, but it was built quite stably. The mansion door was already half open. Most likely, it had been opened by the shock waves from the undercurrents that had been surging over the years. It's probably been a long time since a cultivator has been here. Jingqiu deduced after taking a look. It's already somewhat dilapidated. Dongbu Shuang walked in. With a glance, he could see that some parts of the mansion were already damaged. The courtyard of the mansion wasn't big. Soon they entered the hall. The hall was maintained by arrays that isolated the undercurrent. It was completely empty inside. How desolate. Dongbu Shuang said. At the same time, they walked through the back door of the hall. There was also a winding corridor inside. Soon they arrived at another hall. This hall was clearly more private. From the decorations, it should be a place for ordinary cultivation. Quick, look at the wall. Jingqiu, who was walking in front, shouted. Dongbu Shuang walked over. There were indeed some words on the wall of the hall. Furthermore, there were 3 types of words written in different shades. It seemed like they were left behind by 3 different people. The leftmost one wrote, I, Jianghu, was trapped in the 4th stage of the heavenly stage. I built a mansion here to cultivate bitterly. I also sent my avatar into the ruins of the lake to search for opportunities. Jingqiu said as she read, Snow Eagle, I've never heard of this stage 4 world deity Jianghu. I've never heard of him either. Dongbu Shuang said. Then he probably didn't become a powerful existence. Jingqiu shook her head. Dongbu Shuang said, it's not easy to become a powerful existence. Although there were only so many stage 4 world deities in the deity world at the moment, there were far too many stage 4 world deities since the birth of the deity world until now. Almost all of them were stuck at the final step, unable to transcend. The first owner of this mansion was also someone who failed to transcend. If he had transcended, even if he had died as a powerful existence, his fame would have spread far and wide. Dongbu Shuang and the others would definitely know of him. Chapter 539. After reading the words left behind by the leftmost world deity Jianghu, he did not gain anything. Shuang looked at the words written in the middle. I, Qin Yutian, am also trapped in the stage 4 world deity realm just like brother Jianghu. The Lake Heart Island historical remains is one of the best historical remains in the entire deity world. There must be an opportunity that can help me break through. Reading this, Dongbu Shuang looked at Jingqiu, who replied softly, I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it either, and I'm afraid that it has failed. Dongbu Shuang said before continuing to look at the words, I have yet to take that final step in my cultivation, but my true deity heart is already unstable, and is on the brink of collapse. I have no regrets in my life, and at least I have lived a glorious life for 10 billion years, and my heart is already satisfied. I have stayed in this mansion for a long time, and have discovered a secret. I guess that this secret is only known by a small number of powerful existences in the deity world, but none of them spread it. Since I do not have long to live, I will record this secret here and leave it for the fated one. The secret is that there are hundreds of millions of meteorites floating around the Lake Heart Island, and all of them are indestructible. Even His Majesty God Emperor and the others cannot do anything to them. The reason why these meteorites are so tough is because they are made up of Calamity Stone essence. Dongbu Shuang was speechless. Calamity Stone essence? This was a rare material that was not inferior to demon bone ash. It was said that calamity stone essence could only be born in places that had experienced great calamities. Usually, it would be in the form of powder, and each time it was born it would be extremely rare. However, calamity stone essence could be said to be indestructible, and was an excellent material to be mixed into equipment. The price of 500 grams of calamity stone essence was around 60 million deity crystals. It was something that could only be found by chance. What, these meteorites are all made up of calamity stone essence. This Lake Heart Island is made up of hundreds of millions of these meteorites, and they form a huge formation. Dongbo Shuang could not believe it. Dongbo Shuang continued to read the description. Although it's indestructible as the saying goes, dripping water can pierce through stone. The mighty currents around the island had been crashing down for countless years, and the undercurrents kept crashing down. 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 100 million years, a billion years, a billion years, 10 billion years. Even the sturdiest material would be damaged. The outermost layer of the meteorite on the island would have some cracks after a long time of crashing. As more and more cracks accumulated, the surface would break and fall off. Any random piece that fell off would probably weigh 3 to 5 caddies, or even 10 to 20 caddies. This is a huge treasure. Moreover, according to my judgment, this meteorite on the island wasn't formed naturally. Instead, the creator of the Lake Heart Island used an unimaginable method to lay down a terrifying array formation. This array formation was formed by absorbing the energy of heaven and earth, completely creating the calamity stone essence out of thin air. This method is simply unimaginable. The meteorite on the Lake Heart Island will forever be nurtured by the energy of heaven and earth. Even if it suffers some damage, it will still grow back. It's precisely because of the existence of the formation. Even since the birth of the God realm, the ruins of the Lake Heart Island are still intact. After reading these descriptions, Dongbo Shuang was also shocked. A calamity stone spirit could be born from a formation? Moreover, there were more than 100 million meteorites that were tens of thousands of kilometers long? We'll have to take a look later. Jianghu said as she looked at the last words left behind. She was startled and said, "Snow Eagle, look, this is Emperor Heaven Cloud." Dongbo Shuang also looked over. Emperor Heaven Cloud was also a stage 4 world deity. However, he was much more famous. He was originally a transcendent with a grade 1 true meaning from the material world. In the beginning, he was taken in as a personal disciple by an ordinary almighty being. However, he had a fortuitous encounter and obtained a mysterious ultimate art. He relied on it to slaughter and battle to dominate the world. He was chosen by the myriad God Palace Master, who personally appeared and allowed Emperor Heaven Cloud to take him as his master for the second time. He received careful guidance. Following that, Emperor Heaven Cloud soared to the sky. With 2 absolute arts complementing each other, his combat power was extremely high. Having a battle record of killing a powerful existence while being a stage 4 world deity was simply inconceivable. Even though he was someone from 200 billion years ago, he was still extremely famous. Both Dongbo Shuang and Jianghu knew of him. However, Emperor Heaven Cloud seemed to have spent his entire life fighting and killing. He had a beloved woman who was also a stage 4 world deity. However, she died at the hands of one of the 3 ancestors of the bloodshed God Palace, the Overlord of Destruction. Emperor Heaven Cloud was filled with hatred. Because he was also a lord of a material world, he was fearless and fought with the Overlord of Destruction. The battle was extremely bitter. His avatars died many times. However, each time they were reborn from the material world and killed their way out. He killed too many and his combat power grew stronger and stronger. When he was a stage 4 world deity, his combat power was already close to that of the 3 ancestors. Of course, he was not comparable to them. In history, there was only one stage 4 world deity who could reach the combat power of the 3 ancestors, the Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master. The battle between Emperor Heaven Cloud and the Overlord of Destruction was too fierce. Blood Blade came forward to mediate. But it was useless. Emperor Heaven Cloud did not give face to anyone, and the myriad God Palace Master also defended his disciple. During that period of time, he had a huge impact on the entire deity world. Many powerful existences were afraid of him and were not willing to fight with this madman. However, he failed to break through to become a powerful existence, and from then on, there was no news of him. Who would have thought that a stage 4 world deity who battled heaven and earth, and even fought with the Overlord of Destruction for so long, would stay here for so long? Dongbo Shuang looked at the words on the wall. I, Heaven Cloud. I abhor evil. If I could not stand it, I would fight and kill. I was originally very happy. Later on, I met the love of my life, Lan. However, an old thief destroyed everything. I swore that I would kill an old thief, even if he was the master of God Emperor. Ah. An old thief was afraid and actually begged his disciple, God Emperor, so that God Emperor would give him a karma spark to plot against me. Since then, the endless karma has been transferred to me. But so what if the karma is huge? I believe that my Tao heart can break through all obstacles. I concentrated on cultivating in this meteorite mansion and spied on the core of the formation inside this meteorite. With the help of the meteorite's formation core, I could feel the vast formation of the entire island. I have comprehended a lot from it for many years. I believe that when my realm is high enough, when my Tao heart is strong enough, I will eventually break through the shackles of karma and become a powerful existence. With this message, I vowed to fight to the death. Now, although my true deity heart is on the verge of collapse, the closer I am to the final moment, the more I feel that it is time to break free. If I do not succeed, I will die. I must succeed. I will definitely succeed. I have also built a pavilion at the core of the formation inside the meteorite. Juniors should be able to find it. After finishing the words, Dongbo Shuiying and Yu Jingqiu looked at each other. I really did not expect that one of the three ancestors, the master of His Majesty God Emperor, the overlord of destruction, would use the legendary karma spark to plot against Emperor Heavenly Cloud. Yu Jingqiu sighed. With such an identity, no one would dare to wait for Emperor Heavenly Cloud to become a powerful existence. Instead, it is a plot. However, such news has never been spread in the divine world. Dongbo Shuiying could feel the domineering aura of the words. He could feel that the dazzling figure from 200 billion years ago could still have such a firm Tao heart even when his true deity heart was about to collapse. It was a pity that he was destroyed. Otherwise, he would have a bright future if he became a powerful existence. The overlord of destruction is my master's master after all, Dongbo Shuiying said. Emperor Heavenly Cloud was dazzling when he was alive, but he disappeared after his death. The reason why this news has not been spread is probably because my master and the Myriad God Palace Master had some kind of negotiation. Sigh, what a pity. Dongbo Shuiying looked at it and shook his head. Logically speaking, the overlord of destruction was on his side, but he couldn't help but lean towards Emperor Heavenly Cloud's side. Although Emperor Heavenly Cloud's Tao heart was unshakable, and he had to fight until the last moment, Dongbo Shuiying and the others knew very well that Emperor Heavenly Cloud had failed in the end. Chapter 540. Shuiying and his wife finished looking through the entire mansion. They did not discover anything else, so they left the mansion. Hua. Standing at the entrance of the residence, at the bottom of the canyon, Dongbo Shuiying's body suddenly emitted a large amount of light. This was his luminous sun force. A large amount of luminous sun force spread out, rapidly enveloping the entire meteorite that had a diameter of 10,000 miles. How is it? Jingqiu asked. There are many cracks on the surface of the meteorite, but most of them are inconspicuous. There are a total of 8 spots which are more conspicuous. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. Let's go. Let's see if we can peel off the Calamity Stone essence from these 8 spots. They took a step forward. The speed of the husband and wife was extremely fast. In just a few steps, they arrived at a spot on the surface of the meteorite. There, the surface of the meteorite seemed to have been completely cracked, leaving only traces of it behind. This is the spot with the largest crack. It has almost completely fallen off. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. It has been a long time since a cultivator has come to this meteorite. That's why we discovered it. Let me try first, Jingqiu said. She stretched out her hand and pointed. Qiu. Rays of sword light shot out one after another. They were precisely Jingqiu's blood-refined deity weapon. These thin swords brought with them a terrifying might as they struck the crucial spots on the surface of the meteorite. At the level of Dongbo Shuiying and Jingqiu, their control over their strength had reached an extremely high level. A miraculous object like the Calamity Stone essence was surrounded by water. If one were to use pure brute force, one would only be able to unleash 1/10 of one's full strength. Only by matching one's realm with one's strength would one be able to unleash such a miraculous effect. Dang dang dang, the sounds of collisions rang out. This piece of meteorite had clearly fallen off, with only a few traces remaining. Yet it was still trembling without stopping. Dongbo Shuiying and the others weren't trying to destroy the Calamity Stone essence. They were merely trying to take advantage of the cracks. Despite being a stage 4 world deity, Jing Qiu's blood-refined deity weapon was still unable to break it apart. I don't believe it. Let me try again. Jing Qiu willed the 9 swords to form a sword array in the air. Haha, take it slow. Dongbu Shuiying smiled as he watched from the side. His wife was quite competitive. Boom. The 9 thin swords suddenly burst out and turned into a dazzling sword light. The sword light flashed, leaving behind an arc trajectory and suddenly hit the stone. The stone shook again and finally the threads connecting it to the bottom completely fell off. Success. Dongbu Shuiying praised. Jing Qiu extended her hand, and the calamity stone essence fell into her palm. She felt it for a moment, then threw it to Dongbu Shuiying. You keep it. I'll keep it? Dongbu Shuiying was surprised. This is my biggest spoil of war. I'll give it to you as a gift. Jing Qiu smiled. Dongbu Shuiying took the calamity stone essence and felt it for a moment. He nodded. It's about 6 kilograms. This is indeed your biggest spoil of war. Just this stone alone was worth 7 to 800 million deity crystals. It was comparable to the wealth of a relatively young stage 4 world deity. Of course, some of the more powerful stage 3 world deities who had cultivated for a long time would be able to save up this much. Even a greedy person like the venomous Ying world deity would not be so greedy. Let's go. Let's go to the next one. Jing Qiu was relatively happy. The feeling of obtaining a treasure without restraint was truly refreshing. The two of them worked together, yet they were only able to peel off 2 stones. The second one had to be done by the combined efforts of Dongbu Shuiying and his wife. The remaining 6 places had obvious cracks, but they were unable to do so no matter what they did. Even so, these 2 stones weighed more than 10 kilograms. The ruins of Lake Heart Island are indeed different. We haven't even landed on the island, yet we've already obtained such a precious treasure, Jing Qiu said. We're also lucky that a senior left behind a residence on this meteorite to inform us of this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to discover this secret, Dongbu Shuiying said. As for this secret, very few people knew about it. After all, there were very few who dared to enter the ruins of Lake Heart Island. Coincidentally, it was even more difficult to land on the meteorite. After all, the silvery white ball of water on the island had a diameter of more than 8 trillion kilometers. Even 100 million meteorites would be inconspicuous within it. Regarding this, Dongbu Shuiying had never thought of publicizing it. He was not that foolish. Everything in the world had its own rules. If one wanted to obtain something, they had to pay the corresponding price. Who? The two walked on the surface of the meteorite, crossing many large canyons. In the depths, Dongbu Shuiying's luminous sun force spread out, allowing him to discover the pavilion left behind by Emperor Heavencloud and his corpse. In the depths of one of the canyons, there was a huge circular gap in the array diagram. Let's go in. Dongbu Shuiying and his wife immediately turned into a stream of light and entered the gap. They followed the huge gap of the array diagram and dived for more than 3,000 kilometers before entering a huge hole. This huge hole was at least 1,000 kilometers wide. In the center of the hole there was a pavilion. In the pavilion there was a figure sitting cross-legged. He was looking up at a light ball floating in front of him. The light ball was composed of silver and red. It was incomparably gorgeous and formed an incomparably mysterious light ball array diagram. This light ball array diagram had more than 100 million nodes, and countless nodes were constantly rotating. Emperor Heavencloud. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu walked over. The person sitting cross-legged was Emperor Heavencloud. It was just his corpse. Emperor Heavencloud was a very majestic and tall man. Even after his death, his majestic body exuded an endless domineering aura. His will had already merged with his body. Even though he had died for more than 200 billion years, this terrifying will still did not dissipate. This kind of will made Dongbu Shuiying and the others secretly change their expressions. When Dongbu Shuiying approached and saw Emperor Heavencloud's face, he couldn't help but be stunned. How could he, even when he died he did not close his eyes and did not lower his head? Dongbu Shuiying couldn't believe the scene in front of him. Emperor Heavencloud, who was sitting cross-legged, raised his head and looked at the array diagram in front of him. His eyebrows were very thick, and his eyes were full of spirit and a terrifying desire. One must know that when he died, his true deity heart had already collapsed. Even when his true deity heart collapsed, he still stared at the array diagram and was still fighting for the last glimmer of hope. Even when he died he did not give up. Dongbu Shuiying silently looked at him. A peerless genius. Even when his true deity heart collapsed, he still stared at the array diagram with his head held high. He did not even close his eyes. The strong desire in his eyes could be clearly felt. Such willpower. Such a Tao heart. Dongbo Shuang silently said. After dying for 200 billion years, his willpower still existed in this space. This was the first person that Dongbo Shuang had seen in his life. He had seen many stage 4 world gods, but none of them could shock him like this. He had seen big senior brother Huiming, Chihua Laozu, and many other great existences. But he had to admit that the willpower of those great existences was not as strong as this. Only the Abyss Master, His Majesty God Emperor, and the 3 ancestors at the Myriad Flower Feast were people that he could not see through. But normal great existences, Dongbo Shuang felt that their willpower and Tao heart were definitely not as good as this person in front of him. After all, he was the one who beat up the Lord of Destruction until he was afraid of him. He even went to beg God Emperor for treasures and plotted against Emperor Heaven Cloud. Willpower, willpower. Dongbo Shuang silently said. He also sat cross-legged on the side and closed his eyes. Snow Eagle? Jing Qiu was also shocked by the terrifying willpower released by Emperor Heavencloud's corpse, but she suddenly found her husband sitting cross-legged and closed his eyes in cultivation. She could not help but be puzzled, but she did not dare to disturb him. Dongbo Shuang sat with his eyes closed. He finally understood. Ever since he became a disciple of his master, God Emperor, he had been dazzling, but this time he took the initiative to bring his wife to the Lake Heart Island ruins. It was because he felt that living a comfortable life was eroding his willpower. Previously he only had this feeling. But now that he saw Emperor Heavencloud's corpse, he died with his head held high and his eyes wide open. Dongbo Shuang was touched. He understood the gap between him and Emperor Heavencloud. Tao heart. That resolute willpower. Ever since I was young, for my brother, for my parents, for Xia people, for my wife, I have moved forward without looking back, even becoming a grade 1 true meaning transcendent. But what happened after that? After becoming a disciple of my master, although my cultivation speed was fast, it was also because of the extremity path, chaotic whole path, and world path. These were the 3 paths I liked when I was a transcendent. Naturally, it was done in one go, but in reality, my desire to pursue the Tao is not that strong anymore. Now, I lack the sharpness of a blade. I lack such a strong Tao heart. Compared to Emperor Heavencloud, I am still far behind. Chapter 541. Jing Qiu watched from the side. Dongbo Shuang sat cross-legged for half an hour, and then he slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was much sharper than before. Snow Eagle, what's wrong? Jing Qiu asked. Dongbo Shuang got up and looked at Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud's corpse, who was staring at the array diagram even after his death, and said, "The heart is like a mirror. Cultivating the heart is to make this mirror more clear, and you need to clean it often to remind yourself. Otherwise, if it falls on the ground, it will gradually become dark." Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud's Tao heart is so strong, and it made me understand that my Tao heart is not strong enough. Understanding is one thing, but cultivating the heart must rely on one step at a time to prove my Tao heart. Dongbo Shuang said. Jing Qiu felt the sharpness in Dongbo Shuang's eyes, and she couldn't help but be shocked. Her Tao heart was also very firm, but it was not like Dongbo Shuang and Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud's sharpness and domineeringness. My will is not as strong as him now, but it is not necessarily the case in the future. After all, he has experienced the tempering of 10 billion years. Dongbo Shuang smiled and then walked forward to the pavilion, and carefully looked at the light ball floating in the air. The light ball was formed by 2 colors, white and red, and the countless light rays of the 2 colors formed a spherical array diagram, and the countless intersecting nodes were changing. Dongbo Shuang carefully looked around and said, "Jing Qiu, this array diagram appeared, it should be activated by Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud's array." "Yes," Jing Qiu said. "I also looked at it for a while, and it is unfathomable." And Dongbo Shuang also carefully looked at the array diagram. Buzz, as soon as his consciousness seeped into it. He felt himself rapidly shrinking, becoming a tiny dot within the huge formation. He looked around and saw stars spinning in the distance. Over 100 million stars were constantly changing. Although each star seemed to be moving very slowly, there was a special sense of beauty to it. Hundreds of millions of stars moved in different directions, creating a sense of vastness. He felt as though he was facing the entire material world, as though there were countless mortal worlds revolving within the material world. In fact, this array felt even more domineering than the physical world. It was a domineering frontal suppression. It was as if no one could shake this formation. The vast laws of the material realm felt that if it was an ordinary person, then this formation would be like a soldier wearing armor and wielding a weapon. Dongbo Shuiying looked at the revolving stars and suddenly his heart thumped. He could vaguely sense a terrifying destructive intent. Even the destructive aura he sensed from his master's blood blade couldn't compare to this formation. The hundreds of millions of slowly moving stars contained an incomparably terrifying killing intent, and it was brewing. Once it erupted, the heavens and earth would shatter. One of Dongbo Shuiying's 3 great secret skills was none other than the secret skill destruction. At this moment he could not help but be immersed in it. As he was immersed in it, he lost track of time. Days passed one after another. Jingqiu was also immersed in the diagram, occasionally waking up. As a stage 4 world deity, she was able to see much more of the array, and she was also shocked. No wonder Emperor Heavencloud chose to comprehend this diagram before his death, and it was his final struggle. The more I look at this formation, the more I feel that it is inconceivable. More than a month had passed since the two of them started looking at it. Snow Eagle, Snow Eagle. A voice that seemed to be very far away could be heard. Ping. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly woke up, and only then did he feel an intense pain in his body. Jingqiu, who was beside him, retracted her palm and asked anxiously, "What's wrong?" Dongbo Shuiying clutched his head. He felt a splitting headache, and there was even blood flowing out of his nose. Not only was his avatar in pain, even his main body in the Xia people's world, Crimson Rock Mountain, had a nosebleed. But at the same time, the artifact spirit of Crimson Rock Mountain had awakened Dongbo Shuiying. I discovered the great destruction aspect of this formation, and I have been trying to comprehend it. The more I comprehend, the more I feel. Unknowingly, my true deity heart was injured by the terrifying killing intent of the formation, and the injury is reflected on my body. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. It's not just this avatar, even my main body in the Xia people's world was injured. This killing intent is too terrifying, and I was injured by it just by comprehending it. Jingqiu was also shocked. Injuring the deity heart and body? Even the main body in the material world was injured? Powerful existences can kill enemies far away with a thought, and they rely on karma. But this formation didn't intentionally cause any karmic attacks, and yet it was still able to injure your main body. It's not karma. It's just that both my avatar and main body were trying to comprehend the formation, and they were both injured. The formation is too powerful, and I feel that it's not any weaker than the laws of the material world. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. I can't comprehend it anymore. My comprehension of the formation's destruction aspect has reached my limit. If I continue to comprehend it, it will only take my life. I'm fine. Jingqiu said, maybe I'm not comprehending the destruction aspect. I'm going to leave a world's deity avatar here to comprehend it. Alright, I don't need to comprehend it anymore. Let's get ready to go to the Lake Island. Dongbo Shuiying said. Then Dongbo Shuiying looked at the corpse of Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud, who was sitting cross-legged next to him. With a wave of his hand, countless soil and stones appeared next to him. An invisible force wrapped around Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud's corpse and moved it to the side. Countless soil and stones covered the corpse, forming a graveyard. Imperial Emperor Heavenly Cloud, rest in peace. Dongbo Shuiying said softly. Dongbo Shuiying left the meteorite with his wife. He used his luminous sun force to explore the endless stream of water and began to fly forward at high speed. This huge silver stream of water was more than 18 trillion kilometers in diameter. It was too huge. They couldn't travel through space in this stream of water, so they could only fly continuously. Along the way, the husband and wife experienced many hardships. They had encountered purple swordfish and other special creatures in the stream of water. These creatures had existed since the birth of the Lake Island, and they were chased crazily. They even deliberately created a deity avatar to confuse the enemy. They also encountered undercurrents many times. Later on, they became more and more experienced. They could judge the undercurrent's approach by the speed of the flow of water. They could even judge the approach of some terrifying creatures. It took a total of 11 years. That's right. The huge silver water ball flew in from the surface of the island. After passing through the endless stream of water, Dongbo Shuiying and the others spent more than 11 years before they finally began to approach the core of the island. Boom! They passed through an invisible barrier. The water flow was isolated. The black-robed youth and the silver-haired, white-robed woman looked at the huge island in shock. The island was isolated from the water flow, and the entire island was silver-white in color. It was covered in countless layers of frost, and the cold air caused Dongbu Ying and his wife to shiver uncontrollably. The lake island was naturally far smaller than the silver water ball. However, according to the intelligence reports, it was still more than 1,000,000,000,000 kilometers wide. Jingqiu, it really wasn't easy. We finally arrived at this lake island. Dongbu Ying shook his head. On the way through the water layer, I thought I was going to lose my life time and time again. Jingqiu nodded as well. This journey had been too difficult. We've come at the right time. Right now, the entire lake island is covered in frost. It's much safer here. Jingqiu said. We have to hurry and find my father. We have to find that true god weapon. Right, we can't take the path that my father and the others usually take. Withered Tree Old Mother, Nanyang Palace Head, and the others are watching us. We have to avoid them as much as possible. You decide. Dongbu Ying said. I hope that we can save my father before the lake island turns hot, Jingqiu said. The temperature of the lake island was constantly changing. It would gradually become extremely cold, and when it reached an extreme, it would slowly turn hot, and eventually reach extreme heat. Extreme cold and extreme heat were two extremes. Those cultivators who came to enter the Lake Heart Island, even powerful existences, weren't willing to enter under the extreme heat. Because at that time the danger level of the lake island would rapidly increase. Chapter 542. Dongbu Ying and Jingqiu were currently flying at high speed above the ice-cold Lake Heart Island. Due to the size of the island, there were many caves as well. The region my father entered is rather far from here, Jingqiu said. We'll enter from here and gradually approach my father. All right. Dongbu Ying nodded. Suddenly, he frowned as he looked into the distance. Two streaks of light were flying over. Ah, isn't that your highness Dongbu? Two figures streaked across the sky and descended. They were two stage 4 world deities with vast auras. One was a plump man dressed in purple robes with two feelers growing out of his head. The other was an ordinary human world deity, but he carried a large black ruler on his back and wore a black robe. He had the appearance of a cold middle-aged man. The two took the initiative to walk over. The purple-robed fatty said, Your Highness Dongbu, I visited you a few days ago. Do you still remember me? Monarch Armadillo Jade? Dongbu Ying laughed. I didn't think we'd meet on Lake Heart Island. Lake Heart Island is so big. Fu Qiong and I discovered your highness from afar, so we rushed over immediately, the plump Monarch Armadillo Jade said. The cold middle-aged man, King Fu Qiong, cupped his hands in greeting. Your highness. King Fu Qiong, I've long heard of your fame, Dongbu Ying said politely. And this is? Monarch Armadillo Jade looked at the masked silver-haired woman. She was emitting the aura of a stage 4 world deity. There were only so many stage 4 world deities in the entire deity world and Dark Abyss. This is a good friend of mine, Empress Nine Swords, Dongbu Ying said. Jingqiu glanced at Dongbu Ying. Greetings, Nine Swords, the two said in unison. They were puzzled as to where this Empress Nine Swords had come from. Your Highness, just the two of you are preparing to enter Lake Heart Island? Armadillo Jade asked. Yes, walking the line between life and death can sharpen one's Dao heart, Dongbu Ying said. If your highness doesn't mind, shall the two of us accompany you? Armadillo Jade and King Fu Qiong were clearly prepared for this. Dongbu Ying and Jingqiu looked at each other. This time they were going to enter from a relatively unfamiliar cave. The dangers were unpredictable and the two of them were indeed too weak. Monarch Armadillo Jade and King Fu Qiong were much more experienced than the two of them, especially Monarch Armadillo Jade, whose strength was extremely profound. He was probably on par with eldest senior brother Huiming. He was indeed a good helper. Haha, brother Armadillo Jade is willing to join us. We couldn't be happier. Dongbu Ying said. However, we are preparing to enter from the cave in front. I wonder if the two of you will be entering together? It's just up ahead? Armadillo Jade and King Fu Qiong stared at the nearby cave in astonishment. King Fu Qiong furrowed his brows and said, Your Highness Dongbo, there aren't many great existences that enter this cave. It's better for us to enter a cave we are more familiar with. That way we will have a greater chance of success. But it's harder to find opportunities in a cave we are too familiar with. Dongbu Ying shook his head. I've decided to enter from here. If the two of you aren't willing, we'll have to split up. This, King Fu Qiong and Monarch Armadillo Jade looked at each other. They soon came to a decision. The two of them had taken the initiative to join because they wanted to form a friendship with Dongbo Shuiying. After all, it was easy to form a friendship after experiencing a life and death situation together. Fu Qiong, why don't you accompany this Highness Dongbo? Even if it means risking your life, it's still possible for you to form a good relationship with him. If you can get closer to His Highness Dongbo, when His Highness reaches the strength of a paragon in the future, just a little bit of guidance will be enough for you to benefit immeasurably, Monarch Armadillo Jade advised. The strength of a paragon was at the level of the three ancestors. The three ancestors belonged to the Bloodshed God Palace. There were many others like Monarch Green, Mysterious North Imperial Empress, and others who were free and did not rely on any side. They were all respectfully addressed as paragons. All right. King Fu Qiong immediately came to a decision. Furthermore, I feel that since Highness Dongbo dares to enter, he might have something he can rely on. Who knows, he might have obtained some sort of secret treasure map, Monarch Armadillo Jade transmitted. The two of them came to a decision. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu were both startled, but they were inwardly delighted. With two powerful helpers joining them, their chances of success would increase by a few notches. This time they had come purely to fulfill their desire to save Monarch Mo Shui. In reality, however, the danger of the Lake Heart Island historical remain was such that their chances of success did not even reach 10%. But no matter how low their chances of success were, they had still come. They had already prepared themselves for failure. I'll scout ahead. I've cultivated a secret technique that allows my eyes to see through all illusions, Monarch Armadillo Jade said. His eyes had become incomparably deep, and there seemed to be a vortex within them. All right. Dongbo Shuiying, Jing Qiu, Monarch Armadillo Jade, and King Fu Qiong were all extremely powerful, and so they were able to quickly coordinate with each other. The four of them carefully entered the cave. The cave was so deep that they couldn't see the end of it. Dongbo Shuiying and the others continued to carefully advance. Occasionally they would encounter a fork in the road. Be careful. There seems to be something terrifying lurking in one of the forks, Monarch Armadillo Jade sent mentally. The four of them were all carrying treasures that could isolate them from detection, making it extremely difficult for enemies to discover them. Alas, the dangers of the Lake Heart Island were far greater than they had imagined. No matter how much they wanted to avoid it, it would be very difficult to avoid it completely. Oh. Dongbo Shuiying and the others took a closer look as they passed through the fork in the road. Deep within the fork, there was a statue of ice there, but the eyes beneath the statue were scarlet red. They were staring in the direction of Dongbo Shuiying and the others. Or perhaps it was more accurate to say that the ice statue was staring in the direction of the fork. Dongbo Shuiying and the others all felt their hearts clench. Hurry up and leave. They all had a bad feeling about this. Moments after they left, cracks began to appear on the ice statue and soon countless chunks of ice shattered, revealing a black-armored, muscular warrior. This warrior had a single horn that reached the heavens, and his face was covered with yellow fur. His eyes were scarlet red, and he was staring in the direction of the fork. The corners of his lips curled upwards slightly. It's been too long. Finally, some outsiders have passed through this place. I've just awakened, so there's no rush to kill them. I'll take it slow and kill them at the last moment. I hope you can hold on for a bit longer. Whoosh. The black-armored warrior's body touched the icy walls, then he quickly melted into them and disappeared. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Monarch Armadillo Jade, who was walking in front, looked around with an ugly expression on his face. Your Highness Dongbo, are you really going to keep going? We don't have any experience in this cave, and we don't know what lies ahead. Just follow this path, Dongbo Shuiying said. The safer path was being watched by Withered Tree Old Mother and the rest. Monarch Armadillo Jade was muttering to himself. I've already discovered 3 paths of danger, but this Dongbo Shuiying and that Empress of the Nine Swords have yet to discover a single one. Could it be that they didn't have anything to rely on in this cave? This is really troublesome. Because of the secret technique, Monarch Armadillo Jade was extremely proficient in detecting danger. His eyes scanned the surroundings, and the profound mysteries of the laws of heaven and earth appeared in his eyes. Even the slightest movement from afar would cause a slight change in the world, and he would be able to detect it. Be careful, there's a power approaching us at high speed. Let's flee quickly. Monarch Armadillo Jade hurriedly flew forward, at the same time releasing a formless world deity energy that enveloped Dongbo Shuiying and the rest. Their flying speed suddenly exploded, reaching a speed of 600,000 kilometers per second. This caused Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu to be somewhat speechless. Even they, husband and wife, could not reach such a high speed. Furthermore, he was bringing 3 people along with him. Monarch Armadillo Jade's reputation was indeed incredible. Boom! Behind them, a figure tore through the ice and charged into the cave. One could vaguely make out a creature clad in black armor galloping on 4 hooves. However, it soon disappeared, tunneling into the cave walls. It's approaching us at an extremely fast speed. Monarch Armadillo Jade was already moving at an extremely fast speed while carrying Dongbo Shuiying and the rest. However, at this moment he was somewhat anxious. It doesn't even need to make any turns within the mountain. Everything is moving in a straight line, and it's approaching us at its fastest speed. I'm afraid it'll catch up in a few breaths' time. Prepare for battle. Chapter 543. As Dongbo Shuiying and the others were fleeing through the complicated tunnels of the cave, deep within the mountain not too far away from them, Kakaka. One statue after another covered in ice began to shatter. Some were black-armored warriors, some were black-armored flying beasts, and some were black-armored wild beasts. All of them had awoken from their slumber. Looks like Lake Heart Island has entered the frigid ice phase again. The moment we woke up, we were frozen solid. Still, that's fine. If it were the frigid ice phase, the surroundings would be distorted, and it would be even more uncomfortable. A flood dragon-like creature covered in a layer of black armor had awoken as well. It had 2 horns on its head, and a hint of joy could be seen in its golden eyes. Oh, these old fellows are still alive and well. Whoosh! The black flood dragon-like creature touched the walls of the cave, instantly disappearing. In a rather spacious space. Numerous black-armored warriors, flying beasts, and walking beasts all hurried over. Haha, blind old man, long time no see. I'm so happy to see your old face. Hey, isn't it young Master Soaring Feather? You're still as heroic as ever. Haha, big brother, you're still alive. As your little brother, I'm afraid that one day I'll wake up, you won't be here anymore. These black-armored creatures were all incomparably happy, and their expressions were filled with gratification. One of them, a giant serpent covered in black armor, said in a booming voice, "Most of our team is still alive. This has something to do with the fact that very few outsiders enter this region. I hope that outsiders come more often. That way we'll be able to wake up a bit longer. If too many outsiders come, we'll be in danger of dying. Defeating us would be easy, but killing us, humph, that'll be very difficult. Haven't you heard? There are quite a few regions of Lake Heart Island that have been invaded by true god hegemons. Many old fellows like us were instantly transformed into dust. In front of hegemons, we didn't even have time to flee. True god hegemons wouldn't dare to act rashly in Master's territory. These black-armored creatures were all chatting amongst themselves. Although we're neither dead nor alive, it's all thanks to Master. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to transcend and become mighty figures. Logically speaking, we should have died a long time ago, but Master has allowed us to live until now, a black purple-eyed bird said in a sharp voice. Master has indeed done countless cultivators a great favor. We weren't able to transcend and become true gods. That's because our comprehension abilities are poor. Master has already helped us a lot. However, we've woken up on this island countless times, but it's been a very, very long time since we've sensed the presence of our Master. These black creatures sighed among themselves, even reminiscing about the past. Even so, they could still sense the presence of Dongbo Shuiying and the other 3 who were trying to escape. Don't be in a hurry to act. We have to let the invaders feel that this area is relatively safe and spread the news. In the future, more invaders will be willing to come here. We can also wake up frequently. The feeling of sleeping all the time is really uncomfortable, a burly warrior in black armor said. 3 stage 4 world deities and 1 should be a stage 3 world deity who has cultivated an absolute art. They're too weak. There's no need to chase after them too ruthlessly. A small black-armored bird that was currently flying in the surroundings chirped, "Let them play around a little more. The truly important areas are all heavily guarded. With their meager strength, they're simply courting death." Within an ice-cold cave, a 4-hooved black-armored creature pounced over with incomparable savagery. Its usage of the laws of profound mysteries was extremely low. What it relied on was its terrifying strength and speed, as well as the sharpness of its claws. Humph! The spear in Dongbo Shuiying's hand pierced through the air. His surroundings seemed to be filled with a myriad of phenomena. Everything appeared beautiful and resplendent. This spear strike caused everyone to feel the beauty and splendor of the myriad existences in the world. One of the three great secret skills, life. This move was the result of Dongbua Shui Ying's comprehension of the beauty of the myriad existences in the world. Beauty was just an appearance, but the essence of it was life force, a life force that could move one's heart. This spear strike of Dongbua Shui Ying's contained a kind of spirituality and toughness. It was like a small grass that grew out from the cracks of a rock, like a speck of green in a dry desert, like the drifting rain. It was unleashed at will, containing the spirituality of the world, allowing it to have a myriad of transformations. After the spear pierced out, it instantly vibrated with power. In an instant, it transformed into 320 different forms of force. This move, life, was truly unpredictable. There was no need to deliberately control it, as doing so would cause one to be at a disadvantage. What was required was comprehension. Even if one comprehended it, it would be extremely hard to describe. Dongbua Shui Ying could only comprehend it based on his spirit. The four-hooved black-armored creature staggered and smashed into a nearby rock wall, causing countless layers of ice to shatter. However, it did not suffer any injuries at all as it continued to madly pounce over. "Oh, too weak. You can't injure me at all." The four-hooved black-armored creature roared madly as it chased after it. King Fu Qiong, wielding the black great ruler, also made his move. This black great ruler seemed slow, but it was actually extremely fast. As it slammed out, the surrounding time and space began to change. The entire world seemed to be changing. The four-hooved black-armored creature was actually unable to dodge, and its claws could not even touch the great ruler. The black great ruler directly smashed into the head of the black-armored creature. With a dong, the power of the great ruler was transmitted into the creature's body. However, the black-armored creature was sent smashing into the ground of the cavern, leaving behind a deep trench and a large number of cracks on the ice. Even so, it continued to chase after Fu Qiong, completely unharmed. This creature seems to have an average understanding of the laws of profound mysteries. It's only at the stage 3 world deity level. Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted. In fact, in terms of the exquisiteness of its techniques, it's slightly weaker than me. However, its strength, speed, defenses, and even the sharpness of its claws are all inconceivable. Its speed can reach a speed of 600,000 kilometers per second. Its strength is actually slightly higher than mine, and its claws are even sharper and more terrifying than our blood-refined deity weapons. Furthermore, no matter how we attack, we are unable to harm it. Fortunately, its level of cultivation is low, King Fu Qiong transmitted. By relying on our level of cultivation, we were able to suppress it. Suddenly, Monarch Armadillo Jade kicked the black-armored creature in the face, causing it to slam into the stone walls of the cavern. Countless pieces of ice shattered, and the creature tumbled several times before finally landing on the ground. The black-armored creature glared at Dongbua Shui Ying and the other three, then swung its tail. With a low growl, it turned around and slammed into the stone wall to the side. However, it completely disappeared without a trace. It gave up? Dongbua Shui Ying and the others heaved sighs of relief. After being suppressed by us for so long, of course it had to give up. Monarch Armadillo Jade rubbed his chubby face. But we can't rejoice too early. Its level of cultivation is clearly very ordinary, but the four of us were able to completely suppress it. In a one-on-one fight, its defenses are invincible, its speed and strength are terrifying, and its level of cultivation is only slightly lower than His Highness Dongbua's. In a one-on-one fight, it won't be easy to deal with. Dongbua Shui Ying and the others nodded in agreement. In a one-on-one fight, even Dongbua Shui Ying had no confidence in himself. After all, even if they attacked with all their might, none of their attacks would be able to harm the creature. It would be far too difficult to defeat an enemy with invincible defenses. Your Highness Dongbua, Empress of the Nine Swords, I have to warn you that this black-armored creature isn't the only one in the area, Monarch Armadillo Jade transmitted solemnly. I can sense that there are even more terrifying killing intents in the area. I have to warn you that Fu Qiong and I do not have the confidence to deal with them. The two of us are willing to accompany His Highness on this journey, but Your Highness, you must be prepared. If you do not have the confidence to rely on, you should give up as soon as possible. Let's continue forward. Dongbua Shui Ying and Jing Qiu glanced at each other, then Dongbua Shui Ying said, "The road ahead is dangerous, but I will lead the way." Of course, he would lead the way in the direction of the true immortal treasure. Lead the way. Monarch Armadillo Jade and King Fu Qiong's hearts stirred. It seemed that His Highness Dongbo really did have some sort of treasure map. However, there were quite a number of such maps. Some were extremely valuable, while others were extremely valuable. I'm just afraid that we'll all die before we reach our destination, Monarch Armadillo Jade muttered helplessly. So what if we die? It's just a clone. Let's hurry. King Fu Qiong frowned. Oh, how domineering. Fu Qiong, if there's any danger later, you go first. Monarch Armadillo Jade teased as he continued forward. At this moment, there was indeed a large group of black creatures in the surroundings, secretly watching their weak group. They were in no hurry to attack. Chapter 544. Who is leading the way? Why are they heading towards the blazing blood gate? The black-armored flood dragon's golden eyes were filled with doubt. Do they have some sort of map that leads them to the blazing blood gate? A sharp voice rang out from the side. An enormous black-armored bird sneered, "You're thinking too much. Just based on the strength of their team? If they knew of the existence of the blazing blood gate, they would have long since taken a different route. Back when we were Stage 4 world deities, we came to Lake Heart Island and knew of the blazing blood gate. But who would dare to barge into it? If they really were to barge into the blazing blood gate, the four of them would most likely lose their lives. Even if they chose not to barge into it, it would be difficult for them to survive just by passing through. The blazing blood gate. That place is truly terrifying. Even before the gate opens, it is already dangerous. The moment it opens, it will be a nightmare. These black-armored life forms all sighed. None of them dared to barge into the blazing blood gate as they knew their limits. What should we do then? If the four of them die there, they will think that this region is too dangerous. It will be a long time before any other cultivators enter this region. At that time, we will have to continue our slumber. These black-armored life forms all began to feel vexed. They still had a duty to fulfill. If Dongbo Shuiying and the others were to approach some of the more important regions, they would still act. But before that, they still hoped to let the four of them live a little longer. In fact, if their luck was good, they might even obtain some treasures. That way, more and more invaders would enter this region. However, they could not take the initiative to hand over treasures. After all, the moment they violated their duty, they would be annihilated. Chase after them and force them to change directions. Tell them to go in another direction. There's a fork in the road 15 million kilometers ahead. Tell them to change directions there. As long as they change directions, they won't encounter the blazing blood gate. These black-armored life forms immediately made their decision. Dongbo Shuiying and the others were flying at an extremely fast speed. In a single second, they could cover close to 600,000 miles. In just a short while, they had already covered tens of millions of miles. Hong Long Long, a cruel battle was currently taking place. Shuiying and the other three had encountered the most intense battle ever since they entered the cavern. A very terrifying black-armored, tall and sturdy warrior had come to deal with them. This black-armored warrior's combat power was extremely strong, and it was estimated that he could match up to powerful existences. Dongbo Shuiying and the other three were also resisting with all their might. King Fu Qiong spat out a mouthful of blood. A huge spell formation appeared around him, and numerous black rulers appeared, attacking the black-armored warrior in a frenzy. The black-armored burly warrior wielded his great axe. Every single move he made contained terrifying destructive power. Even in a place like the Lake Heart Island where the laws of the world were extremely strong, every strike he made would cause a black hole to appear in the surrounding space. Let's escape. There's a fork here. Let's escape to another path. Monarch Armadillo Jade sent mentally. It's too tiring. We can't hold on for much longer. In addition, this black-armored aberration is only blocking us from the front. He seems to be guarding this path. Let's just follow this path, Jingqiu sent mentally. Right, let's follow this path. Dongbo Shuiying sent mentally as well. If they changed directions, they would be moving in the opposite direction from where the true divinity artifact was hidden. King Fu Qiong sent mentally as well. This black-armored aberration is blocking us. Could it be that he's trying to lure us into another path? That path might contain a trap. That's possible, Monarch Armadillo Jade agreed. One side was extremely powerful, while the other side was made up of four people working together. Dongbo Shuiying was using one of his three secret techniques, the domain-type secret technique known as prison. Jingqiu and King Fu Qiong were using their blood-refined deity weapons to attack as well. Monarch Armadillo Jade was even more powerful, and he would always attack at critical moments, allowing the four of them to join forces perfectly. After battling for a while, Dongbo Ying and the others finally broke through the blockade and continued to flee at high speed. The black-armored, great-axe-wielding warrior did not pursue them. Instead, he watched coldly as they left, then frowned and murmured to himself, "They insist on taking this path no matter what. I'm helping them so that they don't die too quickly. And yet, they're still charging forward of their own volition. Forget it. There's nothing we can do to help them. If they want to die, so be it." Although his voice echoed throughout the area, the surrounding region was completely isolated from all detection, preventing Dongbo Ying and the others from hearing him. This was their duty and they didn't dare to disobey it. Although they had their own selfish motives, they could only do what was necessary within the scope of their duty. Whoosh! Whoosh! Dongbo Ying and the others were resting within a certain passageway. Monarch Fu Qiong and Jing Qiu had suffered relatively heavy injuries. Monarch Armadillo Jade was the most slippery and intelligent of them all, and so he wasn't injured at all. As for Dongbo Ying, his luminous sun force had given him incredible strength and speed, and he was quite skilled in close combat. As a result, his injuries were relatively light. Jing Qiu and Monarch Fu Qiong weren't particularly skilled in close combat. Their supreme techniques were more suited to formation-based techniques. Fortunately, these black-armored aberrations seemed to be in charge of different regions. If they had joined forces, we probably would have died long ago, Monarch Armadillo Jade muttered. That one just now was too powerful. The four of us only just barely managed to hold him off. Dongbo Ying was solemn as well. Fortunately, we had Monarch Armadillo Jade. If we had to rely on ourselves, the other three would probably have been killed by him in no time. Monarch Armadillo Jade was indeed more powerful than the three of them. He was able to control the flow of battle and attack at critical moments. His combat prowess was something that even Dongbo Ying admired wholeheartedly. He truly lived up to his reputation as someone who was almost as powerful as eldest apprentice brother Huiming. It was no exaggeration to say that he was on par with eldest apprentice brother Huiming. I've only lived for a few years in vain. Monarch Armadillo Jade rubbed his chin, feeling quite pleased with himself. Let's go. Let's keep advancing, Monarch Fu Qiong said. If we stay here for too long, we might run into danger. Let's keep going. Dongbo Ying nodded as well. The four of them advanced stealthily. The rest of the journey was much safer. Occasionally they would be attacked by black-armored aberrations, but their strength was still within the range of what they could endure. In the end, there were still very few aberrations with the power of a major power. Caw caw caw. A black-armored bird cawed, then instantly split into over 1,000 bodies that simultaneously attacked Dongbo Ying's group of four. The four of them continued to flee while simultaneously defending against the attacks. By working together they were able to hold on. Be careful up ahead. Monarch Armadillo Jade suddenly said. Dongbo Ying was also paying close attention to what was ahead of them. Ahead of them was an empty mountain, and within the mountain there was a blood-red disc. With Dongbo Ying's group's vision, they could still see it clearly despite their vision being obstructed. It was a massive disc that was at least 1,000,000 kilometers in circumference. The disc was red in color, and it was covered with carvings of swords and sabers. Does it look like a door? Dongbo Ying was puzzled. This massive disc looked like a circular door that had been placed on the ground. There was a vertical mark in the center of the disc that looked like a door that could be pushed open. A door that's placed flat on the ground? Dongbo Ying stared at the carvings of swords and sabers, as well as the blood-red patterns on the disc. He could sense a boundless killing intent and a bloody aura emanating from it. All of them, including Monarch Armadillo Jade, were experts. Naturally, they could sense this formless threat. This was far more terrifying than the black-armored aberrations they had encountered earlier. Hua! Dongbo Ying and the others were extremely fast, and they soon arrived at the mountain. The black-armored bird that had been chasing after them had also stopped. It cawed as it watched from afar, and was no longer in a rush to act. Everyone be careful. Be careful of those ice sculptures, Monarch Armadillo Jade transmitted. Dongbo Ying also noticed that there were 2 rows of ice sculptures on both sides of the mountain. There were many of them, and there were at least 100 of them. They can't all be monsters, right? Jing Qiu transmitted to Dongbo Ying. Within the Lake Heart Island historical remains, there are many monsters that were transformed from ice sculptures. Don't scare yourself. Even though there are many monsters that were transformed from ice sculptures, it doesn't mean that every single one of them is a monster. Dongbua Shuiying felt his heart turning numb. Any one of those black-armored aberrations was hard to deal with, and there were 2 rows of ice sculptures neatly arranged in front of them. If all of them were monsters, how could the 4 of them defend against them? I can sense a bloody aura coming from that disc as well as an incomparably terrifying suppression. It's even more frightening than the 3 ancestors of your bloodshed god palace. Monarch Armadillo Jade's eyes were deep as he observed everything. He transmitted, "Everyone be careful. Don't alarm anything. Be gentle and avoid that disc. We'll quickly pass through this mountain. Don't touch anything." Amen. Dongbua Shuiying, Jing Qiu and King Fu Qiong all agreed. They could all feel the unseen threat from that disc. "Let's go," Monarch Armadillo Jade ordered. The 4 of them immediately turned into streams of light and flew past the disc. They did not even dare to touch the ground. But just as they were about to fly, the ice on the surface of the 2 rows of neatly arranged ice sculptures began to crack, revealing pairs of eyes that had already opened. They were all looking at Shuiying and the other 3 who were about to fly through the ice. Chapter 545. Not good. Shuiying felt his true deity heart tremble. For a moment he even felt his vision turning dark. His ears were ringing and his heartbeat was accelerating. The blood in his body was surging chaotically, and his consciousness could no longer see his surroundings clearly. The fluctuation of consciousness is actually able to directly impact my true deity heart? This. Although his willpower was extraordinary, he still instinctively felt fear. It was like an ant being trampled by a human's foot. This was an indescribable fear. One had to know that Shuiying was a stage 3 world deity. Even ordinary powerful existences would not be able to suppress him with a single glance, causing his true deity heart to tremble so much that he could not see his surroundings clearly. And now, the hundreds of ice sculptures were simultaneously gazing at him with murderous intent. Under these gazes, his ears rang, his heart raced, his blood raced, his eyes could not see clearly, and his true deity heart trembled. How can this be? As a stage 4 world deity, Jing Qiu also felt her true deity heart tremble. Her vision began to blur, and even the world deity energy in her body was difficult to control. How can this place be so terrifying? I can't possibly be powerless when facing an almighty. Not good. Run. King Fu Qiong and Jing Qiu were in a similar situation. They could no longer control the energy in their bodies. Monarch Armadillo Jade let out a low roar with a sinister expression. He had cultivated for many years and possessed many secret techniques. His true deity heart had long since been nurtured to an incomparably powerful level. Although he was currently being attacked by the terrifying consciousness fluctuations, he was still able to maintain his battle prowess. He opened his mouth and let out an angry roar. This roar carried with it a unique fluctuation that rapidly swept out, attacking the consciousness fluctuations and reducing their impact. Only then did Dongbua Shuiying, Jing Qiu and King Fu Qiong feel slightly better. All of them could now see clearly what was happening before them. As for the hundreds of ice sculptures, their outer layer of ice had completely fallen off, revealing their true appearances. Every one of them was a warrior wearing blood-red armor. Some had human heads, some had beast heads, and some had metal heads. All of them were staring at Dongbua Shuiying's group of 4 with murderous intent, as if they were looking at 4 clowns. You dare come to the blazing blood door with this level of strength? One of the blood-red armored warriors sneered. Boom. 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 This is going to be troublesome, Your Highness Dongbua. Your directions are too good. Monarch Armadillo Jade laughed bitterly. How can he be so strong? Dongbua Shuiying couldn't believe it either, because according to what he knew, in the ordinary area of the Lake Heart Island ruins, an ordinary almighty strength could withstand it. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. In the end, even Blood Blade and the Temporal Island Lord had to stop. But this place was not as deep as the place where Monarch Imo Shui hid the true god weapon. It shouldn't be so dangerous. Let's go all out, King Fu Qiong said telepathically, a hint of madness in his eyes. Let's go all out. Jing Qiu also had a giant sword floating around her. The giant sword was faintly discernible. Kill? The 4 blood-armored warriors surrounding them moved. Among them was a female warrior with an enchanting figure. A vertical eye suddenly appeared between her eyebrows. The vertical eye suddenly shot out a red ray of light, which directly shot towards the only female in Dongwu Shui Ying's team, Jing. Jing felt her heart tremble with fear. Gap. She instantly understood that there was a huge gap between them. This was the most terrifying opponent she had encountered since entering the Lake Heart Island ruins. Hua. The giant sword floating in front of Jing instantly split into 9 thin swords. The 9 thin swords formed a resplendent star chart. The star chart was resplendent, and countless stars were faintly discernible within it. This star chart blocked in front of Jing, and when the red ray of light hit it, the huge star chart froze. Even the 9 thin swords were frozen in midair, not moving in the slightest. Jing did not expect that her blood-refined deity weapon would be frozen in place the moment they started fighting. This caused a sense of helplessness to rise in her heart. She even wondered if she had been too arrogant in coming to the ruins of Lake Heart Island. Had she been too wrong? There was also a blood-armored warrior wielding a saber. He had a thin figure and a pair of polychoria pupils. With a single step, he crossed the distance between them and arrived beside King Fu Qiong. He brandished his saber, but it created a myriad of afterimages. Even King Fu Qiong, a stage 4 world deity, could not tell which was the real saber. Piu. King Fu Qiong controlled the giant wooden ruler to construct an array in an attempt to block the attack, but his body was instantly split into a myriad of pieces. As it turned out, every single one of those myriad saber images was real. Every single one of them possessed terrifying might. The enchanting woman with the vertical eye between her eyebrows suddenly changed her target. The red ray of light shot out from her vertical eye landed on the myriad of pieces of King Fu Qiong's shattered body. Immediately, King Fu Qiong's body, which had been about to reunite, was completely frozen. Every single piece of his body shattered and was annihilated. King Fu Qiong was annihilated, dying on the spot. He was the first person to die in the group. As for Dongwu Shui Ying, Jing, and Monarch Armadillo Jade, they didn't have the time to be angry. Accompanied by vigorous laughter, a gigantic golden fist smashed towards Monarch Armadillo Jade. At the same time, a majestic warrior waved his hairy black palm and attacked Dongwu Shui Ying. Prison. Dongwu Shui Ying's countless dazzling rays of white light finally bound and extended towards the 4 blood-armored warriors. Although his luminous sun force was fast, the bewitching red light and the blade-wielding warriors from before were even faster. However, his luminous sun force was omnipresent, and it had now completely enveloped the entire battlefield. It began to bind the enemies. It was one of the 3 great secret techniques, prison. After Dongwu Shui Ying's realm had increased, this secret technique had changed as well. It was no longer like the chains that bound and entangled the enemy. Instead, it was a gentle binding technique that was flexible yet omnipresent. Countless luminous sun forces worked together to bind and affect the enemy at all times. If it were used against stage 4 world deities, it would indeed be a powerful technique, but against these blood-armored warriors, it was somewhat weak. Roar! Monarch Armadillo Jade opened his bloody maw and madly roared. As he roared, circles of black ripples spread out, fanning out towards the 4 blood-armored warriors. Wherever the black ripples passed, many small chaos holes would appear with a crackling sound. The 4 blood-armored warriors couldn't avoid the black ripples at all, and they were hit by the impact of the black ripples. For a moment, the 4 blood-armored warriors were all startled. Among them, the majestic warrior covered in black hair clutched his head in pain. The other 3 also clearly slowed down and looked towards Monarch Armadillo Jade. As for the 100 or so blood-armored warriors spectating the battle, they also looked towards Monarch Armadillo Jade. Run. I'm not their match. Monarch Armadillo Jade anxiously roared. At the same time, he grabbed Dongwu Shui Ying and Jing and increased his speed in an attempt to escape. The tallest blood-armored warrior sneered at the sight. The golden fist that had stopped due to the roar once again smashed forward. The golden fist rapidly expanded as it was swung, and in the blink of an eye, it practically blocked the path of escape for Dongwu Shui Ying and Jing. Countless divine runes revolved around the golden fist, giving it a terrifying might. Chapter 546. As the huge golden fist came crashing down, the surrounding spacetime began to freeze. Even before the fist arrived, the formless shockwaves had already arrived. This kind of power made Shui Ying and Jing feel powerless, especially when the gap in combat power between them was so obvious. When the difference in power was so obvious, any resistance would be a joke. Even now, the two of them could not understand. They had not even ventured deep into the Lake Heart Island, so how could they have encountered such danger? Were they really that unlucky? Facing this fist, Jing Qiu controlled the 9 swords to transform into a dazzling vortex of starry space, charging straight at it. Dongbui Shuiying used his luminous sun force to unleash his domain-type secret technique, Prison, to barely disrupt his opponent. At the same time, he used the spear in his hand to unleash his secret technique, Life. He did not even dare to use Destruction, to clash head-on, because he knew that if he did so, he would be easily crushed. Monarch Armadillo Jade charged at the very front, his body suddenly transforming into a huge 4-hooved mutated beast. This mutated beast even had 2 soft feelers on its head. This 4-hooved mutated beast stepped through the void, lowered its head and charged straight at Dongbui Shuiying. Peng, the huge golden fist collided head-on with the 4-hooved mutated beast's head. Peng ping ping. The resulting shockwaves caused the surrounding void to explode. Dongbui Shuiying's spear also spun and pierced through the layers of shockwaves, but its speed was greatly reduced. The golden fist was retracted by the impact. As for the 4-hooved mutated beast that Monarch Armadillo Jade had transformed into, its entire body trembled from the impact of the golden fist, and then began to crumble. This scene caused both Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu to be shocked. Monarch Armadillo Jade was the strongest member of their team. If Monarch Armadillo Jade died in battle, then they would have no hope of escaping at all. Hua hua hua. In midair, Monarch Armadillo Jade's crumbling body transformed into a torrent of black water, which then condensed into the shape of a mutated beast. This mutated beast's life-saving secret technique is quite powerful. The tallest blood-armored warrior frowned and immediately transmitted, "Although my techniques can suppress it, I'm afraid I won't be able to kill it. We'll have to join forces and kill it." Yes. The enchanting woman and the muscular black-haired warrior both nodded in agreement. Their experience was extraordinary, and they could tell that this stage 4 world deity who had transformed into a mutated beast was only close to a powerful existence in terms of direct combat strength. However, he was much more formidable when it came to his life-saving secret techniques. He had already cultivated them to an extremely high realm, and if not for the fact that they could restrain him, even ordinary powerful existences would have a hard time killing him. There are only 3 of them left. I'll leave them to you. The knife-wielding man stood to the side and did not attack again. It was as if he disdained to bully them with numbers. Amazing. When Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu saw that Monarch Armadillo Jade had fully recovered, they couldn't help but be overjoyed. They could see that his body had turned into a stream of water, but that was because his power had not been damaged at all. Monarch Armadillo Jade is truly powerful. He is usually a joker, but his ability to stay alive is so strong. Dongbui Shuiying exclaimed inwardly. Let's go. Monarch Armadillo Jade, who had transformed into a mutated beast, had water flowing around his body, completely enveloping Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu as he continued his escape. Escape? A red beam of light shot out from the center of the alluring woman's brows once again, instantly landing on Monarch Armadillo Jade's body. However, the water flowing around his body did not solidify. The blood-armored black-furred warrior beside her shook his head and did not make a move. He knew that his techniques would not be able to do anything to an opponent with such powerful survivability. Boom. It was still that terrifying golden fist which caused Monarch Armadillo Jade's body to explode once more. However, the dissipating water continued to protect Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu as they struggled with all their might. Rip, the alluring woman appeared as well. Her glowing green claws grabbed onto the water flowing around Monarch Armadillo Jade's body. In an instant, some green threads began to seep through the water flowing around Monarch Armadillo Jade's body. Roar! 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 Monarch Armadillo Jade roared like a madman. He did not retaliate at all. He was relying entirely on the power of his life-saving secret technique in an attempt to escape. After more than 10 exchanges, Monarch Armadillo Jade carried Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu and charged out of the spacious mountain. They continued to flee along the corridor. They're escaping? They're running away just like that? The 4 blood-armored warriors stood in the air above the mountain, watching the water flow fly away. They did not give chase. It looks like they don't know about the blazing blood door. They're just passing by. The alluring woman laughed softly. Third brother, if you had attacked just now, he probably would not have been able to escape. Of the 4 of them, the blade-wielding man was the fastest. If he had tried to stop them with all his might, it would indeed have been difficult for Monarch Armadillo Jade to escape. The blade-wielding man shook his head. His strength is indeed average, the tallest of the four said. If he knew about the blazing blood door, he would not have dared to barge into it. If he had taken the initiative to barge into it, all four of them would have died. So far, only two have died. The other two are still alive. They're quite lucky, the black-furred warrior said. Whoosh. After fleeing for some distance, Monarch Armadillo Jade sensed that he was no longer being pursued. He stopped, and the water flowed back into his human form, returning to his original appearance. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't chase after us. Dongbo Shuiying glanced behind him. It's all thanks to Monarch Armadillo Jade. If not for him, Dongbo and I would definitely have died there, Jing Qiu said. It's a pity that brother Fu Qiong didn't manage to escape. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu found it hard to calm down after surviving a calamity. They were still filled with lingering fear. The threat they had faced this time was truly overwhelming. They had been at an absolute disadvantage. Fortunately, Monarch Armadillo Jade's life-preserving abilities were strong. Monarch Armadillo Jade sighed. The enemies were too fast. That blade-wielding man appeared in front of Fu Qiong in the blink of an eye, shattering his body. The alluring woman's strange red light completely annihilated Fu Qiong's body. Fu Qiong died in a single exchange. I wanted to save him, but I didn't have enough time. But it doesn't matter if he's dead. After all, if he hadn't died earlier, it would have been difficult for him to survive. What's wrong? Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu were startled. Monarch Armadillo Jade, why are you so unconfident? Dongbo Shuiying was puzzled. After experiencing the previous battle, Dongbo Shuiying was filled with admiration towards Monarch Armadillo Jade. Monarch Armadillo Jade's life-preserving abilities were probably at the level of a major power. In an ordinary region, Monarch Armadillo Jade should be able to hold on. That alluring woman, aside from using that strange red light, is also extremely skilled in using hexing poisons, Monarch Armadillo Jade said helplessly. I've already been poisoned by the hexing poison. I can't hold on much longer. What? Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu were both shocked. It's true. The hexing poison has already permeated every part of my body. My strength is constantly being consumed, and my body will soon collapse, Monarch Armadillo Jade said helplessly. The hexing poison is too terrifying. Even my damaged Blackwater true body can't hold on. Monarch Armadillo Jade waved his hand. A black ruler, a storage treasure, and a few other items appeared next to him. These are the treasures that Fu Qiong and I brought with us. Monarch Armadillo Jade sat in the corridor, then instructed, Your Highness Dongbo, if the two of you are truly lucky enough to make it out alive, help me and Fu Qiong bring these treasures back to us. Chapter 547. Within the cold cave, Jing Qiu could not help but ask, Snow Eagle, weren't we too blind to enter the Lake Heart Island ruins? We were weak to begin with, and we even chose a secluded cave that few cultivators had entered before. Even Monarch Armadillo Jade and the others who came with us died. If not for his protection, we would not have been able to reach this place. Alright, since we're already here, there's no point in thinking too much. Dongbo Shuiying waved his hand to collect the weapons left behind by Monarch Armadillo Jade. You and I were already mentally prepared. Even Brother Armadillo Jade and Brother Fu Qiong were prepared to die. Furthermore, if we didn't choose a secluded cave, why would we choose a safer place? I'm afraid that Nine Yang Palace Head and the others are on guard there. And? Jing Qiu nodded lightly. This place is not too far from where my father hid the true god weapon. I hope we can reach there alive. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Before coming here, he was a stage 3 world deity with the luminous sun, absolute art. He was considered an expert even amongst stage 4 world deities. With such strength, he could be considered an overlord in the vast deity world. At that time, Dongbo Shuiying was quite satisfied. But this time he had chosen to enter one of the most dangerous ruins in the entire deity world. Only those with the strength of a powerful existence could roam the ordinary regions safely. After coming here, they first saw the corpse of Monarch Heavenly Cloud, and then they were ambushed multiple times in the cave. Monarch Armadillo Jade was the one leading the team. All of these made Dongbo Shuiying feel that he was lacking in strength. Clearly, he was still at the bottom of the group of peak existences in the deity world. But being at the bottom was already something to be proud of. After all, being at the bottom required strength. Just passing through the huge silver-white water ball was not an easy task. We're not far from our destination. Let's continue, Dongbo Shuang said. The two immediately turned into streams of light and flew through the cave at high speed. In a narrow space within the belly of the mountain that was only 5 million kilometers away from them, there were two black-armored monsters residing there. One of them was a black-armored WRM, and the other was a black-armored, multi-legged beast. Among the weak teams this time, only the one with an extremely powerful life-saving secret technique is somewhat difficult to deal with. The other three are very ordinary. The black-armored many-legged beast said in a low voice, his voice echoing in this narrow space. Now that the other two are dead, there are only two weaker ones left. Big brother, what do we do? Are you going to make the first move, or should I? Big brother, I'm afraid you can easily kill them. There are very few outsiders who enter our area. This light was so dazzling that Dongbo Shuang and his wife were unable to see it clearly. However, with the luminous sun force, they were still able to determine the opponent's movements. Die. Dongbo Shuang's scarlet cloud spear stabbed out violently. In an instant, 3 spear shadows appeared. Hong, the first spear seemed ordinary. However, a large amount of power began to accumulate along with the spear technique. The second spear caused the surrounding space to distort. The third spear. In an instant, the spear seemed to transform into a point. It was incomparably small, an extremely small point. Of course, this feeling of being small only lasted for an instant. What followed closely was a blinding light. It was incomparably dazzling. The surface of the many-legged beast was still dazzling and ferocious. However, when Dongbo Shuang stabbed out with his spear, the tip of the spear became a small circle of absolute darkness. Outside of this small circle, there was an incomparably dazzling light. This was also Dongbo Shuang's strongest killing technique. It was one of the 3 secret techniques, destruction. After seeing Emperor Heavenly Cloud's corpse, Dongbo Shuang's state of mind changed. Then he looked at the array diagram of the terrifying array that was made up of hundreds of millions of meteorites. In that array diagram, Dongbo Shuang comprehended the destruction aspect. At that time, not only Dongbo Shuang's clone, but even his main body in the Xia People's World's Crimson Rock Mountain was also injured. According to these insights, the main body spent 100 times of time in the Crimson Rock Mountain to recreate the destruction secret technique during the 11 years that he passed through the water layer. Furthermore, after entering the cavern of the Lake Heart Island historical remains, the many battles of life and death had given Shuang many insights. This destruction secret skill of his had always been in the process of being perfected. Even though Shuang had yet to reach the level of the ancient array, and could barely grasp the surface of it, it was still the peak of Shuang's current strength. Dong. The tip of the spear stabbed into the many-legged beast's head. The beast stared at Dongbo Shuang fiercely and spoke for the first time. A stage 3 world deity can actually hurt me? What a pity, even powerful existences can't kill me. Dongbo Shuang's heart immediately turned cold. The black-armored monster's defense was invincible, and even his strongest killing technique was useless. What should he do? Hua. The many-legged beast's dozens of claws quickly stepped on the void, and its body moved in a strange manner. On the other side, a huge sword array diagram appeared. Jingqiu had also made her move. Boom, the black-armored, many-legged beast didn't even try to dodge, forcibly taking the blow with its body. After a brief pause from the collision, it charged forward once more, moving at a speed of nearly 600,000 kilometers per second. Perhaps Monarch Armadillo Jade could suppress it in terms of speed. But Dongbo Shuang and Jingqiu were still far from it. The two of them looked at each other. Their strength was inferior and their speed was far inferior. There was no way they could escape. Chapter 548. Jingqiu Run. Dongbo Shuang swung his spear and met the beast head-on. At the same time, he used his luminous sun force to execute his secret skill, prison, to restrict the beast. Run. If we stay here, we'll both die here. It doesn't matter if our 2 clones die, but there's no meaning in dying like this. I specialize in close combat and domain-related secret skills. I can still hold it back for a while. But you won't be able to hold it back. Once it gets close to you, you will die. Quick, run. If you run, I can think of a way to escape as well. Maybe I can survive. Amen. Jingqiu had memories from her previous life after all. She was a decisive person. Although it was hard for her husband to block the enemy, she consoled herself. Both her and her husband were only clones here. It didn't matter if they died as long as their deaths had some value. South, Jingqiu transformed into a ray of light and escaped. Shui Ying and the black-armored many-legged beast were engaged in a frenzied battle. Boom boom boom, Dongbo Shui Ying's body slammed against the walls of the mountain. He relied on his domain-related secret skill to slow down the enemy's movements. At the same time he relied on his spear arts to hold on. Although the beast was extremely strong, his luminous sun force was also his forte. With his new spear art, life, he was able to hold it back for a while. Even though the combat power of the black-armored many-legged beast is above mine, it's not to the point where I can't even retaliate. What he didn't know was that these black-armored beasts had sent the weaker ones over on purpose. They wanted to waste more time to kill them off one by one. However, I won't be able to hold on for too long. I can't fight against them head-on. Dongbo Shuiying executed his spear arts while escaping at high speed. Xiao. A ray of light escaped at high speed. Trying to escape? The beast roared as it chased after him. Its speed was much faster than Dongbo Shuiying. It was able to catch up to him time and time again. It was just that the direction Shuiying fled in was the same direction he came from. Because his wife was heading in the direction of the true god weapon, if he ran in the direction of his wife would be dragged in as well. Even if he really had to die, he had to try his best to protect his wife. Jingqiu transformed into a beam of light as she flew. Her eyes flashed with a hint of dissatisfaction towards herself, because the main reason why she came to Dongbo Shuiying this time was for her. Snow Eagle. Jingqiu looked behind her, but no one was chasing after her. Dongbo Shuiying and the black-armored many-legged beast were flying at high speed as they fought. Pooh! Shuiying was struck by a hoof claw and was sent flying backwards. Even though he used his spear to block the attack, he still spat out a mouthful of blood. He continued to flee, the huge wound on his chest rapidly healing. These were only some of the injuries caused by the shockwaves of the battle. If he had been struck head-on with his current body, he would most likely have died immediately. As Dongbo Shuiying battled, he gained a deeper understanding of his secret skill, life. His spear arts were executed according to his will, as though everything in the world was blossoming with a different kind of beauty. His moves were perfected and he was actually able to hold on until now. However, if he defended for too long he would definitely lose. If this continued, Dongbo Shuiying understood that he might lose his life. Faster, faster, it's just in front. Dongbo Shuiying's heart was filled with anticipation. The black-armored many-legged beast which was chasing behind him gradually slowed down. In fact, it was no longer intentionally chasing after him. It was slightly puzzled. Blazing blood door? That's right. Dongbo Shuiying continued to flee along the path he came from. By now he was already very close to the blazing blood door. Interesting, interesting. The black-armored many-legged beast's eyes were filled with anticipation. Xiao. Dongbo Shuiying saw a huge space within the mountain in front of him. There was a huge blood-colored plate on the ground which was about 1,000,000 kilometers wide. There were pictures of swords and sabers on the plate, and it was emitting a terrifying killing intent and a bloody aura. There were also a few blood-armored warriors who had already woken up and were chatting with each other. These blood-armored warriors all turned their heads to look at Dongbo Shuiying who was flying towards the space within the mountain. He still dares to come? He's actually here again? Over 100 blood-armored warriors looked at this scene in shock. The black-armored many-legged beast which was originally chasing after Dongbo Shuiying had stopped, and was observing everything from the entrance of the mountain. South Dongbo Shuiying directly landed on the blood-colored plate. Standing on the blood-colored plate, Dongbo Shuiying looked at the hundreds of blood-armored warriors around him. The stares from these warriors made him feel somewhat uncomfortable. However, this time the warriors seemed to be restraining themselves a little. Otherwise, Dongbo Shuiying would not be able to control the power within his body. And you want to challenge the blazing blood door? Among the hundreds of blood-armored warriors, a tall and skinny lady spoke. Her voice was somewhat feminine. Challenge the blazing blood door? Dongbo Shuiying saw that the blood-armored warriors did not make a move immediately, and looked at the black-armored many-legged beast which had yet to come over. He could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He just followed closely behind. Among the blood-armored warriors, a skinny warrior flew out and landed on the blazing blood door. He stared at Dongbo Shuiying with killing intent. One opponent? Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. Furthermore, the other blood-armored warriors are just watching from the side. Even the black-armored many-legged beast did not chase after me. My guess is right. The reason why he followed the path back to the blazing blood door was because he had a hunch. Previously, when they passed by the blazing blood door, it was 4 blood-armored warriors who attacked. After all, there were over 100 of them around. Why were there only 4 of them? Furthermore, there were 4 of them in their group. What a coincidence. Secondly, after Monarch Fu Qiong was killed, the blood-armored warrior who was holding the blade did not continue to attack. It was a 3 against 3. Otherwise, Emperor Armadillo Jade would not have been able to escape with the speed of the blade-wielding warrior. At first it was a 4 against 4, then a 3 against 3. This gave Dongbo Shuang some guesses. Moreover, the huge blood-colored plate was obviously not an ordinary item. This made Dongbo Shuang very curious. If I were to return alone, I'm afraid it would be a 1 against 1 battle, right? Dongbo Shuang guessed. Among the 4 opponents previously, the blade-wielding warrior, the tall and big warrior with golden fists and the enchanting female warrior were obviously stronger. As for the black-armored many-legged beast, he did not reveal any powerful moves. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. The 4 warriors they sent out, were they sent based on the strength of our group? Our group consists of 3 stage 4 world gods and 1 stage 3 world god. Hence, the number of blood-armored warriors they sent out is 3 strong and 1 weak. Dongbo Shuang was an expert after all. His thinking speed was extremely fast. Although he was in a sorry state the previous time, he was able to make some guesses based on his observations. Hence, he was willing to take a gamble and verify it. This way his death would be more meaningful. Furthermore, he would be able to understand more about the blazing blood gate. Furthermore, what if he made the right bet? He might not even have to die. Seems like I made the right bet. Dongbo Shuang looked at the skinny warrior descending from the huge blood-colored plate. There was only one of him and he did not seem to be as threatening. You said that I'm challenging the blazing blood gate? Dongbo Shuang looked at the tall and skinny lady who spoke earlier and asked with a smile, May I know what the rules are for challenging the blazing blood gate? The tall and skinny lady's eyes shone with a silver light. She looked at Dongbo Shuang with interest and smiled. It seems like you're not too clear about the rules, yet you dare to stand on top of the blazing blood gate. How courageous. It's just a gamble with my life. Dongbo Shuang replied. Some of the warriors in blood-red armor were discussing in low voices, some were smiling and some were shaking their heads while sneering. I wonder if you could tell me what the rules are for challenging the blazing blood gate. That way I can die knowing. Dongbo Shuang smiled. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.